you're all the same people and that you should all unite into one state.
You will probably get cussed at if you ever said
The
that
thing is,
to
I
a
wouldn't
Horner.
see a problem with that. If the whole Horn would stand together, we would be way stronger than we are right now. All the infighting has fucked us up for centuries.
Yeah,
Like a
but
mega.
There's no,
I
but
will
the
say
reconciliation,
no.
is not possible, in my opinion, or not. I can't see it right now. I don't think they're all gonna just make up and it's be good. But it would be the
Okay.
best way.
You
But I
know
don't think
why,
it's gonna happen.
brother? You know why?
I'm not
That's the
saying that y'all
problem is
should. Just
Ethiopia is working with a small hat, AU. So how does that could work? If they stop and start from scratch, we thought they're gonna start when TPLF came in and Haile Mariam went to Zimbabwe. They're gonna start from scratch. We did as an Eritrean. We didn't borrow. We didn't deal with the West. If they have a start, that would have changed it. But the problem, they still want to continue. You can't have both. You
But the thing
want
is, at this point, I see what you're saying, but at this point, no one is trying to agree with anyone, and no one is trying to back down. No country. It's
because
just at a point.
the enemy, the bigger enemy is coming.
Exactly, and I
It's
see that.
us.
I see that. I see how Egypt is putting all of us against each other. But also, they're exploiting the differences we already have, and they're white people. Egyptians are not African. They're white people. Let's be honest. They're Arabs. And
Oh,
I don't want us all to go to war to get against each other. I really don't want that. But I also think that it's not realistic that it's not going to happen.
but
Because how the people have
which
acted in
one
the
is
past
a
and how they
threat? The Egypt or the small hat?
I think like not only the
Both
I
of
state,
them.
I think the West in general, I think
Yeah.
China, I think Russia, I think the I state, I think
Every
the
non-African
Vegas of GCC, that country, the Vegas of GCC is not receiving enough hatred that it should be getting. It has its hands in everything. The Emiratis, oh my lord, they have their hand in everything. So that is not being discussed. But also, I personally, to answer your question, Ini, that question was very triggering. I'm not gonna like I don't like you would have to do a deep dive to see how many Eritreans were unalived in order for us to gain independence from Ethiopia. Like that within itself, like seeing the maps that I showed you, like the photos that I showed you, that within itself is it gives anxiety. Like seeing that map, right? So I don't think any Eritrean would like I can't think of any Eritrean, regardless of if, and when I'm telling you this, I'm telling you these are Eritreans who are pro-government, anti-government, Eritreans who are leftists, conservatives, centrists, whatever it is, across political lines, across ideological lines. When it comes to Ethiopia, though, we are united in what we think, in that they can't be. We cannot just give up losing 20% of our population. We lost 20% of our population. So we cannot give up 20% of the population that we lost, the complete destruction. Like you're seeing the footage about the footage coming out of like the watermelon country.
yeah.
That's exactly what it looked like. That's literally what Eritrea looked like. So
Okay.
That's not possible. And especially with politically and diplomatically, by the way, we would like to have diplomatic relations with our neighboring countries. But unfortunately, the the Ethiopian government, it doesn't allow that.
So so hear me out, y'all. Hear me out. So I hear what you're saying, and this was what I asked wasn't to minimize the trauma that you all have gone through. So I'm asking in the sense of if you were to unite it would be the unity of the people on the landmass, no longer with that government in existence. Because what I'm thinking, how I think, if I was a diabolical external entity, it would be easier for me to continue to play you all off of each other if you're divided. Do you get me? Which is why one of the reasons Pan-Africanists of the past, they expressed a vision of the unification of the entire continent of Africa. So this is not Eritrea, Somalia uniting with Ethiopia. This is like the end of that country and that name, and you turning into a different political entity.
We can't,
because
though.
okay. So wait. So in the entire conversation, we've been saying how it's not the individual Ethiopians or Somali people or Eritreans, right? We've been saying that it's the government structures. So if the government structures are dissolved and something more, I don't know, actually like socialistic were to come into existence, could it be possible then? Because if we think that is categorically impossible, then I feel that us as a continent, we're fucked, because the East Africa region, all of Africa is important, but East Africa has a particular importance due to all of the trade routes, due to the Nile River, due to when you go over more to the lake zone. So if we can't unite, then this means that we are potentially doomed to an eternity of external entities ruling over us and making us fight amongst each other. So that's why I asked the question.
So when you say one country, I think that's never going to happen. I think that's that's not going to happen. But I would hope, like, the best case scenario would be like an alliance between the countries that are all there, that they could find a way to work together, which is harder, but I think more possible than all of it becoming their own country, like the same country, because no one wants to give up their country.
We literally have military conscription within our country to militarize our society to deal with Ethiopia. Like, I don't think people fully understand, like, the level of, I know that some Ethiopians come in here and they make fun of the fact that we have military conscription, right? Where men, women are conscripted into the military. We do that because we have a genocidal state right next to us. We have to militarize all of our society, which, by the way, it is not healthy. It's destroying our society from the inside. But we do it to deal with the neighboring government. And I know people are saying to deal with Ethiopia. What do? This is a country that forcibly had its allies lobby Resolution 390 to be passed in 1950 to federate us with it against our will. And then from 1952 up until 1991, it occupied, colonized, and G-sided us and suppressed our identity. And then 1991, we were allies, by the way, Inni. From 1991 up until 1996, we were working together. And then 1997 or 98, they invaded us again until 2000. And then from 2000 up until 2021, they occupied our lands and ethnically cleansed our people. So what are you going to do with this? I'm confused. The people who are outsiders, what do you do with a country that has consistently ethnically cleansed you, G-sided you, and up until today, its prime minister is consistently saying they're going to, like, you have Ethiopian officials claiming next year we're going to be in Asab. It's going to be ours. You have the prime minister saying nobody cried for Gaza, nobody cried for Ukraine. Who's going to care about you? He's saying this in parliament. He's hosting conversations in the Ethiopian parliament about invading us. Like, how are you going to sit here and unite with a country that wants to invade and G-side you again? I'm genuinely, it's like asking Palestinians, why don't you just unite with the blue and white state? How? This is a genuine question. Would you ask
She's right.
It's crazy that Ethiopians would make fun of Eritreans for forced conscription because Ethiopians are getting forcefully conscribed. There's people getting rounded up and being forced to join the military. That's going on in Ethiopia too.
Oh yeah, Atasoma, thank you. You know what the Prime Minister also said in like 2025 or 4? He literally said, oh, we'll turn Eritrea into Gaza in 1 month. He said that. He said, oh, if the war starts, we will turn it into Gaza in 1 month.
So that's
Okay.
our issue is early what happened. They still didn't learn a lesson and say, okay, we went through, they went through, let's start the relationship. No, we're going to help America, I'm sorry, the ego to have removed your president. The people, what they went through, they don't want to go back. And they think the one they see in social media or they move to Ethiopia, financial reason, or they want to go to the West after they go to Ethiopia, they believe Eritrean, they are our friend, our people, we eat the same food. We eat everywhere in America. So what I'm trying to make it short is she's right, because what they did before we gave them a chance, Haile Selassie had a chance, turn back. And again, Haile Mariam's the worst of it, okay, including to Ethiopia. Again, Meles went to the West instead of working with us. Okay? So every time we're trying to do our citizen to be down, how we could allow it to give a chance. It's like the small hat did to the Palestine. We're not gonna, we've seen it what they could do, and they partner with them. They have people working with them and training with them. Sometimes even they talk like them. As Shikobi told you, they talk like them. And they have their people, some of them over there. So how do we give a chance? Is saying, go bleed. Go ahead, sorry.
No, like as an Ethiopian, I completely understand why Eritrea would never want to join with Ethiopia again, and why the Eritrean people wouldn't want it because of all the brutality that took place. I completely understand that. But what's really like breaking my brain is because it's like the Eritrean people are not the one that are deciding if they're aligned, because Isaiah chose to be aligned with Ethiopia in 2022 to genocide other people, and I'm like, how can we work together for murder, but we can't work together for our best interest? You know, and I get why the Eritrean people wouldn't want it, but the Eritrean government did work with us, and that's what's really confusing me. You know, how that even took place, because that's also like what the Tigray people went through, being invaded from two sides. It's horrible, and how could we agree on that, but we can't agree on anything else? But I know why the people don't want it, but why did Isaiah even make that, and then now it's back to like it was before?
Yeah,
I agree with you, that situation, but you have to understand what the region did, their leader too. They constantly were working against us with help of the West. They constantly, they throw so many bombs, over 100. They tried the airport, including the new airport. You guys don't know, we have a new airport, but we can use it because they don't want us to build up our own airport and airline service. They sanction us. So they throw a bomb on it. My brother and cousin area
wait.
building.
You gotta say something else. I'm sorry.
Boom, boom, boom. Sorry. My opinion, what I believe, over 100 boom, boom. And the two of them on the location, there is people live under it. Okay, they are military service family though. It's a family. In case there is a military call, they're ready to go. They throw a bomb on top of it and came to the rock and everything to them. So they throw over 100 bombs.
I can understand that too, because the TPLF, they're
Why?
not saying themselves. Like, no, I understand what you're saying, not what they did.
Okay,
So
so
when you need, when
What I want to
you
say,
do,
the
yeah,
TPLF also did like genocide in Ethiopia, but I'm not saying they're good or they should have but the people didn't do it, like the Tigrayan people. But I mean, how could two enemies unite against an enemy that's African, that is affecting both of us, the TPLF, but we can't unite against enemies outside? That's basically what
that's
I'm saying.
thank you. That's what I'm asking. And earlier, what I'm talking about, the situation that I'm imagining, right, is not one in which your enemies have power over you. Elites who have done something have power over you. It's a state or some sort of political entity in which people live together. So if earlier we said that it's not the individual people who are the problem, then I don't understand why it's impossible unless we think it's the individual people. If it's the people at the top, then they could potentially, in my opinion, speculating, they could be dealt with, and maybe, just maybe, there could be a coalition of some sort of people from each of the countries, former countries, who actually care about unity. That's what I'm talking about.
There
I don't want
aren't,
there to be
though. That's what I'm trying to tell you. Like, not that many. Like Tigray currently is allied with Eritrea, right? It's allied with Eritrea against the Ethiopian government, right? But the problem is, it's, I don't know how to explain it. It's like, Kushirik,
trying to move beyond
were you born and
nationalists.
raised in Ethiopia, Kushirik?
Like, I'm trying to move us beyond nationalism. How do we get beyond nationalism? Is it possible?
Sorry, I'm
Do you
doing
think it's
something in the
possible?
background.
Were
So
you born?
I was born in Ethiopia, but I wasn't raised there my whole life. As a child, we moved.
Okay, so I don't know. I feel like I cannot unite with anybody who doesn't respect my sovereignty. That's the one thing I'm gonna say for now. Especially not with anyone who's expansionist. And from the, like, I'm not gonna sit here and say all Ethiopians are like that, but unfortunately, I have noticed from people, and they have reached out to me, by the way. Some Ethiopians, they like message me and they go like, wow, I didn't know any of this. Da, 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 da. I have had Ethiopians who message me. But from what I have heard from people who were born and raised in Ethiopia, they were told, they're still taught that Eritrea is like a province of Ethiopia, that we're the same people, that they're not taught about the liberation war and the liberation struggle. So that is what I was told by the Ethiopians who were born and raised in Ethiopia and who watched my lives and who were shocked. Some of them were even shocked at the liberation war. They didn't know how brutal it was. They didn't know the things that happened. They didn't know the details of it all. And so, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, so I can see why you say you can't like work together with someone that don't respect the independence or the sovereignty. But what I wanted to say to the other thing, like, I've met Eritreans here in the West that are like born in Eritrea, raised in Eritrea, like refugees, and they will tell me we're the same people. So I don't think that we are far different, but we are different countries now. So yeah, because like the sister said, we eat the same food, we have similar culture, not the same but similar.
But which Eritreans are talking about? The Tigrinya ones, because like the ones who are in West Sudan are very the ones who are in West Eritrea are similar to the Sudanese people. So yes, there are cultural similarities, but also like Eritrea has 9 recognized ethnic groups. Ethiopia has about 86, I think, or more than 86 recognized ethnic groups. Exactly. So like, we can't sit
We're
here
not
and
all the same people, yeah.
we can't sit here and say that Eritreans are the same as people in Gambela, for example. Like, I don't have similarities with like an Anuak person from Gambela or like a Nuer person from Gambela. You know, and like the Tigre and the people who say border tribes.
The
People who say border tribes, the Tigre people in West Eritrea are also a border tribe in East Sudan. So like East Sudan and West Eritrea are very, very similar. And then you have the Afar, who are found not only in Eritrea and Ethiopia, but they're also found in Djibouti. Does that mean that us and Djiboutians are the same people? So like the people who sit here and say,
they're more like, I don't think they're speaking about the ethnic, like I think they're speaking about the shared history, like with the Aksum, with before, like I think they're speaking more about that than just saying we're all the same ethnic group. That's not what they mean when they say we're the same.
Yeah, but even that shared history is not with like with other, like that Aksum was in northern Ethiopia, like in Tigray, right? And in Eritrea. The Damet was the same thing in northern Ethiopia, in Tigray and Eritrea. There are cultural similarities there, of course, because of geographic proximity, but it doesn't mean that we are the same people. Like people can have geographic or cultural similarities due to geographic proximity without being the very same people. There are so many cultural similarities between Eritreans and Sudanese people because we're also bordered nations. But like Sudanese people don't come here and say, we're the same people.
Like you're saying, the Gambella
East
region,
African communities.
1 second. But like you're saying,
Ethiopia, I've been talking for quite some time, brother. I just have a quick question. Is any of those countries in the East African communities?
Yes.
Which ones? Which Horn countries are in it?
Wait, what? Where are you?
Which Horn countries are in the EAC?
All of them.
No, not. I'm talking about the community group, the financial bloc or economic bloc, EAC. Do y'all have a passport to travel to other East African countries? Like, are y'all a part of that alliance, or are y'all not even a part of that?
What are you talking
Ethiopia
about,
is not a part of
George?
that.
It's why. Okay, so that's just a no. Okay, thank you.
No, he's asking if y'all are united enough to even be able to do trade as a block together.
Somalia is. I know that Somalia is.
No. I'm saying EAC. You know, the East African communities.
Are they a part of the EAC? I'm not sure.
Yes.
Somalia is a part of it.
Yes, Somalia is a part of it.
Okay,
South Sudan is a part of it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay,
but
that's good. That's good.
Yeah.
They united. I'm glad at least some of them are on board. The other ones who are not on board, we got a side item.
Wait, but we're not against unity, though. We are united with.
I think that's a step towards it. But if you're not a part of EAC, yeah, I got a side eye you for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, I hate to say it. Not the people, but the governments. Yeah, because the governments control that.
So yeah, I just want to say to the thing Kovi said, it's very true, and it's also the same in Ethiopia. We also have border tribes in like the region you mentioned, the Gambella region, with Sudan and other countries like. But what I'm just saying is not try to say like we're all the same ethnic group, but I'm saying here, like outside, all the Eritreans that I met that know that I was Ethiopian, or that I told them I was Ethiopian, I never experienced any hostility from them. They are very nice people. They never, like, they were the ones saying we are brothers, you know. So I think there is space maybe somewhere for reconciliation, but I don't know.
But the problem is Kushitic, right? The thing that I wanted to tell you, right? Like, the issue that I have with that is, like, I'm not going to sit here and deny the cultural similarities, right? Because, of course, because of geographic proximity, there are cultural similarities. The only issue that I have, though, is usually when I'm talking to, let's say, for example, an Ethiopian person who says we're all the same people, they usually do that to erase Eritrean identity. And that's the issue that I have. Because even back in the day, like they used to pump out this message, like Haile Selassie, they're all Habesha, they're all the same, everybody's the same, there's no distinction made. But that is done to erase our identity. And that's why, if you noticed, Ini, a lot of like the languages we created, the history that we have, is then taken. And people say Ethiopian Empire did it. They say, the Ethiopian Empire was the one that became Christian in the 4th AD. Ethiopian Empire is the one that took in the Sahaba during the first Hijrah. The Ethiopian Empire created the foods and the cultures and all that stuff. So they basically co-opt every single Eritrean creation to make it seem as if we are a people who never created anything. And that within itself is fundamentally dehumanizing, to pretend as if a people haven't created anything, right? And so the issue that I have is, that's why I don't even like the term Habasha, is because they say, oh yeah, yeah, you're all Habasha.
But the same thing, like that's the thing, the same thing is going on inside of Ethiopia. People think every Ethiopian is Habasha, but there are three ethnic groups. The rest of the 90 plus are not Habasha. I'm not Habasha.
Exactly.
Like, yeah, I get what you're saying.
And it's used to erase our culture. That's the issue that I have. It's used to erase our culture, our identity, our contributions, our distinct cultures, right? So that's why I have an issue with people who say, oh, we're the same people. Because I don't have an issue with Sudanese people saying it. Because I've had conversations with Sudanese people who go, oh, yeah, we're the same people. We're cousins. We're brothers. Da, da, da. Because Sudanese people, like, I haven't heard a Sudanese person saying that to justify expanding into my land. Like, I haven't heard Sudanese people saying that to justify colonizing, occupying, annexing Western Eritrea. They're just saying it just to say that we're similar. But usually I side-eye like an Ethiopian person who says it, because in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, oh, are they saying it just because of the cultural similarities, or are they saying it to erase my identity to then justify, like do you get what I mean, Kushirik?
I get what you're saying, and I am not saying, like, I'm not saying
you do that.
I'm just trying to explain to you. Like, I would say, oh, we're neighbors, because I know they're distinct people and they have a distinct group, but they like. But also, I hear this also from Sudanese people. Like, they also say we're brothers. Even like Egyptians try sometimes. But I'm like, no, you're white. We're not brothers. It's okay. But like in that region, I think it would be best if we all could see each other as at least cousins and work together, because that's what we are. Like Sudan, Ethiopia, Eritrea, we all have shared history together.
Yeah, we do. We do have shared history together, right? We were parts of different empires, but unfortunately, at Tabi, we were not one country. We were occupied. Also, this is another thing that really bothers me. Like, it bothers me when people say we are one country. We were occupied and colonized. Respectfully, you don't go to a Palestinian and tell them you are one country with the blue-white state. Respectfully.
So this is my question though. So, Covey, I get it. Like, I don't get it on that level, but I understand that it's a touchy subject. My point was that the power dynamic would be different. So I don't know if you could find it in your heart to just consider a different possibility where we unite as a people without the entity known as the Ethiopian state being in existence, where they can no longer do that to people. That's what I'm talking about. Without them having the power to create GSI, we're imagining a different future. Otherwise, like I said earlier, if we remain divided, then certain powers will still be able to exploit and play us off of each other. And that actually increases the chances of us being victims of GSI again. Because like you said earlier, and someone else said earlier, that the Ethiopian state, in our opinion, has been working with outsiders for a while they've been doing these things. So I'm trying to basically eliminate the opportunity of these things happening again. I'm not trying to bypass anyone's trauma. I'm just trying to get to the root of it so that we can remove the mechanisms that make it possible. And the monopoly on force by one nation that's bigger through, settler and expansionist behaviors, removing that is, I believe, how we move forward. So maybe you can consider, like, hopefully one day, I don't know if you're into it, but hopefully maybe like Eritrea and like other countries in the Horn could join what we're talking about, like something like the East African community. Even though the East African community is not perfect, Kenya still does its certain things, in my opinion. But I'm saying, like, building towards unity. So, and like, basically interweaving ourselves so that it becomes harder for us to see each other as other and destroy each other. That's what I'm talking about.
To understand, like, The reason as to why EAC Eritrea didn't join there is because Eritrea is very isolationist, right? And the reason as to why it's isolationist is because even the African Union worked against Eritrean independence. When it comes to the EAC, if I'm not mistaken, the EAC is complementary to IGAD, right? And IGAD, Eritrea was a part of it, but it left in 2007 because IGAD didn't really do anything when Ethiopia invaded Somalia in 2006. And then it rejoined again in 2023, but then it left again in 2026, I think, or 25. And the reason as to why it left is because Abiy Ahmed keeps making genocidal statements and they do not get condemned. Abiy Ahmed keeps making genocidal statements over and over again on public television and keeps threatening or delegitimizing the sovereignty, and institutions like IGAD don't do anything about it. The AU doesn't do anything about it. IGAD doesn't do anything about it either. And so that's why Eritrea ended up leaving IGAD towards the end of 2025 or early 2026. Because what is it there for? Like if it's not doing its job, what is it there for?
So what I'm hearing is that if we strengthen our, I'm going to call them intergovernmental institutions, like the EAC, IGAD, even the AU, it's not the same, but our African institutions, if we were to strengthen them in a way that Eritrean sovereignty was respected and protected, then perhaps we could move forward in unification. Is that what I'm hearing?
Of course, like Jellybean in the chat said, we just want to be left alone. That's what it is. We just want to be left alone. We want to be able to flourish in peace. We want to live off of our lands. We do not want to be scattered all over the world. We want to be able to enjoy and live within a country that was won through the blood of our people. But the problem is, every single time we get an inch closer to being liberated, somebody else comes in the middle. Every time. The Ottomans were there, they left, and then the Anglo-Egyptians came in, they left, the Italians came in, they left, the British came in, they left, and then the Ethiopians came in, and then they left. And then up until now, every single time, we try to finally at least breathe. We want to be able to breathe, be left alone in peace. We don't bother anybody. We want peace actually with our neighbors. That's the crazy thing. We want peace with our neighbors. Like, as I showed you before, in 2002, after Ethiopia and the Ethiopian-Eritrea war happened with Bademe, that ended in 2000, even though we knew Ethiopia was still occupying our land, we offered to give them port access for free. We didn't even ask them to pay money for the port access. Literally, the government said, we don't want the Ethiopian people to suffer. In their statement, they said that. And that was rejected by Ethiopia. So imagine, after all this war, that we were even willing to give port access for free. That's how much we just want peace. We don't want to be militarized. We don't want to have to consistently be fighting in wars. We don't want to have to be conscripted. We don't want to have to do these things. We don't want to have to be isolated, because Eritrean people are suffering. Like, Eritrean people are suffering inside the country, outside the country, as refugees. We are suffering. We just want peace. But the problem is, our geographic location at the Red Sea, next to the Bab el-Mandeb Strait, makes us a target.
Okay. No, I hear you. And, I know what you're addressing, but for everyone from the Horn who is listening, for everyone who's African, wherever you find yourselves, who is listening, here on this live, and me in particular, my opinion, I would never ask someone to try to unite with someone who is actively harming them. I'm just trying to figure out a way to map out a path for unification. And I understand that if someone is currently actively an aggressor, then that's not necessarily the time. I'm just foreseeing a possible future where, probably soon, in my opinion, where the region could become more active in a negative way. And so I'm trying to figure out what needs to happen in order for us to get on that path. And maybe some of those answers can't be said publicly on this platform. I'm not sure.
Sister, let
But
me stop you. What Prince said, Eritrea is the worst country in Africa. No,
I
it's
didn't
not.
hear.
No,
Oh, okay.
you see,
Yes,
those
ignore
are,
him.
most of them are still on top of our head, bent. Okay, they saying we are more people, so we gonna do whatever we want. Nobody checks them. That's the issue. It continue. Let alone you work with them, they want to be on top of you and tell you in your own house you're gonna follow my rule. Like example, okay, the orange man.
Hmm.
You know what he say in city hall, admiring. Okay, when they were doing when the first time he was the president, there was a fight in some was a supreme. You know, the people T group, the white T, against black people. They analyzed them, and they had a fight everywhere. They say both sides is wrong, even though the other one was the one who's wrong in doing analyzing. But the people, their own people writing internet, maybe we don't want internet on purpose, so you won't try to use it, the three letter, using small hat. Yes, there is some Eritrean they want, because it was okay with them. They didn't go through the WAR, or their family were protected, so they don't care. But the people who live in that land, that happened to them, they don't want to go through, even though they
Where
have
your
to
boots
pay
at?
taxes.
Go get your boots. Where your boots? Oh, sorry, sorry.
No,
My bad.
no, no. You can talk to my child. They going to school?
My bad. I was talking to my child. No. For the comments, look, someone said something. Look, the comments are the comments. Sometimes we have to ignore some of them. Sometimes we can address
No,
some of
most
them.
of the time. But look
Yeah.
at them, instead of working, they're always against us. And if you work with them, what is gonna be demanding? It's like a orange man, my way or the highway.
Yeah. People are saying that they can't hear you well.
Your voice is very far, yeah. Gazamike.
My voice is far.
Yeah. It sounds
Oh,
very low.
sorry. How about now?
Yeah,
How about
so
now?
Barely hear you if you're using
What happened to
headphones.
my
Oh,
thing?
now we can hear you.
Okay, I took my earring thing out. Anyway, I'm glad you didn't hear me because I was emotional.
it's on, I understand these conversations are very
No, it's
complex and
like
hard to have.
unnecessary. Why they write and say Eritrea it's worse? If we are so bad, why you want us? Let us
It,
be.
Ini,
Why
you
you
know
want
that
to work with us? We
yes,
are
you
so
tell me.
bad in everywhere. We are the only one who's traveling to the West. But I see so many African, all of us are here. A lot of different things. At least we scared for a war. What do you excuse? If it's so perfect in Ethiopia, why are you guys out? Why are you using our name, our ID to come here? You could do it, but we can't. They want to control us where we go. If you want all the people who live in Ethiopia, send them like you did before, instead of charging them 4,000 to 7,000. $30 a day to leave you have to pay. They helping the business, the country to build up while you have other. I wish that I could go and stay. I will. But at the same time, you're not going to be. You could unalive me, but I'm not going to bend on my head down to the floor for you. That's enough. Because you guys think Ethiopian is, because you have more people, you could attack anytime, all the time. That's the main. If that mental is not out, every time we're gonna try to protect our country, no matter what you do to us, it's not gonna stop. Good luck. Make me frustrated sometimes.
Yeah, 100%. To like tell you this, by the way, there's this guy, okay, called Martin Plout. He hates like the Eritrean government. He always writes about like the Eritrean government, all that stuff. So this isn't even like Eritrean government propaganda, okay? This guy is very much anti-Eritrean government. Yeah, and he wrote an article here. Eritreans caught in Ethiopia end up paying for their unalived. He says here, Ethiopia has become like Libya, if not worse, for migrants on the run. This is the story of a 16-year-old Eritrean unalived with 2 other boys by the police in Addis Ababa while trying to escape from prison. The family in dire poverty was being asked for $6,000 to get his body back. This is in 2025. So the Addis Ababa police not only unalived this Eritrean kid, but then after they unalived him, they asked the family to pay $6,000 to return to get his body. And on top of that, to the people who are saying, can you make me the big screen? I just want to show a clip, by the way, if that's okay with you. It's also a clip that's safe. Don't worry. But I just want to show. Oh, okay. Okay. So this is that story, right? Now I want to show you this clip. Okay? So this is the person who's saying what aggression in the chat. This is the Ethiopian Prime Minister as he spoke in October of 2025. Listen to what he says. So he says again, if the war starts, the result is clear. There's no crying after that. How can you look at Ukraine and Palestine and talk about getting help? No one is going to unalive or care for you. He's talking to Eritrea. We saw that protests don't stop war. Once we get into war, we have reliable force. No one will stop us. And then he said here, Abiy Ahmed has declared repeatedly in public speeches in parliament and on national television that Eritrea's sovereign territory, specifically the port of Asab, is something Ethiopia must obtain peacefully or by force. He has drawn grotesque comparisons, hinting that Eritrea could be made to resemble Gaza or Ukraine, a threat genocidal in tone and reckless in intent. This is what I mean. Why is the real question here is, why isn't the African Union condemning this? Why isn't IGAD condemning this? Why isn't all these African these Pan-African institutions or African institutions, why are they not condemning the fact that Abiy Ahmed, the current prime minister of Ethiopia, is using genocidal rhetoric towards a sovereign nation? So like before people can sit here and talk about unity and da 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 all this stuff, like which I'm not coming to you, by the way. I'm not coming at you any, right? This is something that I hear all the time. Oh, why don't you just work with Ethiopia? Why don't you? How can you work with a government that tells you I'm going to G-side you? How can you work together with a government that posts maps of your country erased? The Prime Minister's office, Haile Selassie did it, the previous Prime Ministers did it, the current Prime Minister's office posts maps with Eritrea off the map. Meles Zenawi in 98, when he was ethnically cleansing Eritreans, he actively said, you know an Eritrean through their eyes. He said that. He said you recognize an Eritrean through their eyes. And he ethnically cleansed after he stole our assets. He stole their assets and he ethnically cleansed over 100,000 Eritreans, 80,000 to 100,000 Eritreans. So how can you work together with this country? I am confused. We want to work. We want to be in peace. Right? We want to be in peace. We want to have peace generally. But how can we have peace with a country that is mad and still angry that we gain independence? Because that's what it is. Essentially, the country is angry and it views it as a mistake, by the way. That's what the Prime Minister has said. They think that our independence was a mistake. They're angry that they didn't fight hard enough. And they want to, quote unquote, correct that mistake. That's what Abiy Ahmed said. He said that the mistake needs to be corrected. So how can we work together with such a country? We can't. Like, we genuinely cannot. Too much has been sacrificed in order for us to sit down with a country that continues to tell us they're going to G-side us. That's the issue that I have.
So I have this question for you, and I wish there were other people up here who, analyze these things as well. Some from Ethiopia, some from Somalia, and also other Eritreans. So in your view, how long do you believe that we have before they try to take the area, before open conflict begins and they try to take that area for the access to the water?
No. By the way, can a person called Khalid come up? By the way, he's Sudanese. He's from the area. So he's also East African. He's a Sudanese man. He's in the request, I think, okay, perfect. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Hey guys, you can answer her question first because I have a point regarding Pan-Africanism. So you can stick to the point about if Ethiopia. I think the question was if Ethiopia would come in to Eritrea. I think that was the question.
I don't. I don't know actually. I think engaging in a WAR is going to be disastrous for Ethiopia within itself. There are currently multiple civil wars happening in Ethiopia, civil WARS happening in Ethiopia. So Abiy Ahmed doing that would ultimately lead to the same thing that happened to Mengistu. He's probably going to end up fleeing. That's what's going to happen. So it would be a disaster for not only Ethiopia, but for the whole Horn. It's going to be a complete disaster. So I hope a WAR does not happen. The issue here, though, is Abiy Ahmed is controlled by the I state and also by the Mohammed bin Zayed, right? And they need that water. So I'm not gonna lie, I don't know. I don't know what's gonna happen. I don't know how long it's gonna take. All I know is it's not gonna be good. And also to the person in the chat trying to compare the Ethiopian government to the Eritrean government, I think that's a disingenuous comparison because the Eritrean government is not expansionist. And trust me, I don't even really support the Eritrean government for its internal policies. There's a lot of things that I am against, but I can't sit here and lie and pretend like the Eritrean government is expansionist. It's not. The Eritrean government does not want to expand its territory. It doesn't want to annex new land or claim new land, whereas Ethiopia does want to annex new land and expand its territory. So it's not the same thing.
And it's not only to Eritrea that annex or continue having more land, more taking over. It's not only in Eritrea, but they focus more on Eritrea. But it's like, I believe he's not gonna start in a WAR as long, what was the orange man or the eagle that having a issue with a big hat. I forgot the name now. What you guys call them? Where is the big going on? As long that situation is gonna make the situation in our country with Ethiopia, it's gonna be WAR. If you guys know what I mean. That is gonna make the difference. Okay. If that country win and the orange man lose or agree and make all the situation calm down, if they agree, nothing is gonna happen because the blue and white is not gonna support. And as you can see, the Las Vegas region is not gonna do anything for now because they've been weakened. Okay, so I believe they're not gonna start. They're still going through with Sudan. So they're not gonna start with us, but they constantly gonna try to make situation be worry. They trying to make the country not build up for the reason because we always worry of they're gonna come sooner or later and stuff. That's what my belief. I don't know. I hope not too.
Sudanese brother, what's up? You said you wanted to add something to the conversation. Welcome.
Yeah, thank you so much. And hey, Kovi. Hey, Ini Malika. Hey, sister from Eritrea. So I was here for the past hour or so, and I was listening to you guys talk about Pan-Africanism, and some of you guys, even in the comments, were just starting to understand the nuances of the division in Africa. But I'm gonna give you my opinion on general, and then my opinion as a Sudanese person, right? I've been in Sudan, the war and everything. But if you look at the conference in Berlin in the 1800s or the late 1800s, and you notice how that map was divided, it was divided in a way where the priority was to counter any means for a unification of Africa. That's the thing I give props to, the Western imperialist powers, that all the way back then, they've thought about the fact that at some point we would oppress these people so much they'd find no way but to unite. So the division was made where the highest priority is that in no way, shape, or form these countries would unite. That's my perspective. But from a Sudanese point of view, okay, I'm someone who's been through the G side. I've had lost family, friends, and all of that, like any other Sudani. Now, if you ask any Sudani about the mere concept of Pan-Africanism in a sense of uniting in any way, it being economic, militarily, in any way there is, they'd actually cuss you out. Because the level of betrayal we saw from African countries is unprecedented, in my opinion. Can you guys hear me? I think my network is bad.
You cut out a bit, but now we can hear you.
Yeah, we can hear you now, but yeah, like she said, you cut out.
Yeah. So as I said, the level of betrayal we saw from the African countries is unprecedented. And here's why I say unprecedented. What's happening in Sudan, it's not like a normal dispute between us and UAE or whatnot. A lot of the countries in Africa that I'm going to mention knew exactly that the plan of the colonialist powers through the proxy, their proxy being UAE, is to annihilate the Sudanese people, demographically speaking. I don't want to speak a lot about the nuances of it, but that's the main goal. Their issue is with the Sudanese person, their culture, their religious beliefs, and a lot of things. But unprecedented, yes, and I'm explaining why. What's happening in Sudan
Khalid,
when you...
sorry, before you finish, you can't say the Mohammed bin Zayed's country. You just say the GCC Vegas or something like that, or Vegas from the GCC. It's so that the live doesn't get taken down. Sorry, but commit.
Wow, they got that powerful. Wow. Okay, but yeah, as I was saying, I'm gonna give you an example of the countries that were not sitting idle. You know, like one would assume that at least a country that is African would speak out, but no, they didn't even do that. They actually assisted in the annihilation of the Sudanese people. When we're talking about countries like Kenya, Uganda, Mali, Niger, Burkina Faso, which I was so surprised about, South Sudan, Chad, Central African Republic, all of these countries and even more, they actively helped the Rapid Support Forces, which is a T group, I'm sure some of you guys would know it, to do what they're doing in Sudan, knowing very well what their end goal is or what their end game is. Look at IGAD and the African Union. If you guys know the history, Sudan was one of the founders of both these organizations. But what did the African Union do? For example, let's choose the African Union. What did the African Union do as soon as we started applying pressure to them? Like, guys, condemn the Vegas, the GCC Vegas, condemn these countries that are doing this. They kicked out the Sudan. Sudan is no longer in the African Union, by the way, guys. IGAD did the same thing. IGAD was founded, one of the countries that founded IGAD as well was Sudan. But what did IGAD do? They also kicked us out. So this is my opinion as Sudani, or Sudanese, that a Pan-Africanist idea from a Sudani perspective can never be accepted after what happened. And I would reiterate what our leader said, Abdel Fattah al-Burhan, which is the de facto president. He said our compass in dealing with all the countries beside us or the African countries is this war that we're going through. So if you were against us and you tried to annihilate the people, rest assured that we won't even have economic ties with you, diplomatic ties, let alone a colorful unification at somewhat. I hope you guys understand my point.
Percent. Thing with Eritrea, by the way, as well. When we were going through our 30-year liberation war, and G-side, a majority of African countries decided to support Ethiopia, even though it was people were very well aware with how the Ethiopian military was annihilating Eritrean people. They even wrote about it. I found it in the archives, but they still supported Ethiopia. The African Union supported Ethiopia. A majority of African countries supported Ethiopia. And the countries that stood by us were Sudan and Somalia. So those were the countries that stood mostly by us. Somalia, by giving our rebels support with regards to aid support, with regards to even printing out passports so that you'd be able to go in and out in order to train, and Sudan taking in all of our refugees, and then also allowing aid to come through and for us to use their ports as well. Power of God is Eritrean too. They're in the chat. They're in the requests. If you see them, I think they wanted to come out. They wanted to come up.
Yeah. Before I get to that, I'm so sorry. Something happened and I got disconnected. I just wanted to go back to Khalid? Is it Khalid or Khalid? I'm sorry.
Khalid is easy, yeah. Khalid.
I want to get it right. Okay. Or is it Khalid? I don't know. Maybe it's Khalid.
Khalid, yeah.
Khalid. Okay. Yes. I'm trying to get this right. You said that the 3 countries that make up the AES have been complicit in the genocide in Sudan. So it's not that I'm not capable of believing you, but because of the nature of what is up against them globally, and because of what they represent to us as a people, and because of the nature of the claim, do you have any source to support that?
So, which countries in particular are you referring to? You mean South Sudan, Chad?
He's saying Mali, Niger, Burkina Faso.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So, first thing first is the logistical support. Like Kovi mentioned earlier, there is a registered airlines, Batut Airlines, that has been used extensively, especially this year, to send, how do I say it in TikTok language, pew-pews to the RSF. Now, the biggest factor that made us see these countries as aggressors is because of mercenaries. Now, the amount of mercenaries in Sudan fighting alongside the RSF is actually crazy. It's from all the way in Colombia, right? And recently the US, I think 3 days ago, they sanctioned a couple of Colombian companies for bringing in those mercenaries into Sudan. But a lot of the mercenaries as well are from Mali, Niger as well. A lot of them. And some might say, hey, because the government of Mali and Niger came out and said, these are individuals who chose money and to come and fight alongside the RSF. That's not our fault. And I can't really believe that, because if you look at most of African countries like Mali, Niger, Burkina Faso, they're highly militarized countries, meaning they might not be amazing economically, but knowing who comes out, who goes in, who fights under your banner, and these military-oriented stuff, they know about it if not giving them the green light. So to summarize, the mercenaries coming from these countries is the biggest evidence of it, and their government sitting idly or accepting it. But go on.
Okay, so for the last point, I'm going to have to I kind of disagree with both points, just because the first one, for me, it seems like it could potentially be a setup of some sort. And I say this based off of my own understanding and research of how certain clandestine activities and organizations work. I have no proof to verify that it is a clandestine organization, but it just looks so much like a pattern that I've seen before, and it would make so much sense, right? And it doesn't mesh well with their ethos and what they're trying to do. For the second point about the mercenaries, okay, so like you said, they said that they can't control who comes in and out of their country. You don't have to agree with that, right? But the reason why I would give that some credibility is because they're literally fighting T groups, and they keep having coup attempts against them. I'm trying to be respectful here, because I do like what they stand for, and I do like the things that they've done, but there's been multiple attempts on their leaders' lives, and they've been done by people who are within their own ranks, within their own country. So I don't think it's impossible that people have slipped out of their country, because there's people who are slipping in and out of their country right now to destabilize them, in my opinion. Does that make sense?
It really does, but can I ask you a question in return?
Sure.
If we're basing the fact that they wouldn't do this, besides the point of the mercenaries part, is the fact, I think you mentioned their ethos, right? Ethically speaking as well, they wouldn't do that. It's against what they're going for. Why would a country, for example, because to me, Burkina Faso, Niger, Mali, ever since they allied, which I like this alliance, by the way. Why would Burkina Faso, and I was a big fan of Ibrahim Traore, right? And we in Sudan, we follow all the leaders of the Vegas of GCC, their movement in Africa. We follow it extensively. As soon as their foreign minister met with Ibrahim Traore, we saw the registration, or the Batut Airlines that is registered to Burkina Faso, and the extensive logistical support and pew-pew coming into the RSF. So we know for a fact that the state knows about this deal that went down, and that airline specifically, and how important it is for the RSF. So how would you like justify that?
I can't like immediately justify that, because for one, I would need to look at the information confirming that myself to understand more of like the logistics of the deal. But two, if it is true, then I would say on its face that would be, that would be wrong for them to do that. I can't see, there's things about them that they have done that, in my opinion, may not make sense, but doesn't automatically mean that they are trying to do it for like nefarious reasons. Like, I'm not sure why they registered that, if they did. Okay, everyone look yourself. Hopefully after this or during this, people will send me like their sources so I can try to verify, and I'm going to look it up myself anyways. But I don't know why they would do that if they thought that it was going to harm another African country, especially with how much Pan-Africanism they talk about, in them unifying as a Pan-African bloc, and how much of the Marxist ideology that they basically spew, it does not connect. But in the same tone, in the same reason, I wouldn't understand, for instance, why they would sign a memorandum of understanding with the Eagle country to help facilitate their healthcare system. But I still don't think that they're doing that to undermine their sovereignty. So I'm not convinced at this point that their maneuvers are to undermine their sovereignty or the sovereignty of other African nations. I'm just not. But if the evidence is credible, and like if it actually does make me think that way, then yeah, I'll say it. And if it has actually happened, and maybe they didn't know, it would still be messed up. Like, if it's actually something that's going on, then absolutely I would condemn that action as a Pan-Africanist. But I really hope that it's not happening, or that if it did happen, that it was some sort of misunderstanding that they would hopefully make up for. That's all I can say about that.
And I absolutely understand that. And I commend the fact that you'd want to give them the benefit of the doubt. But I want you to look at things from a perspective of a Sudanese person. We no longer have the privilege to assume that if someone is in cahoot, and we have the evidence, by the way, I can show you pictures of flight logs with you can tell which aircraft belongs to which airline. And for every airline to make any sort of deals like the one that they made with that country that's harming Sudan or doing what it's doing in Sudan, they need the approval of the state. So what I'm trying to say is, from a perspective of a Sudani who does not have the privilege to give anyone the benefit of the doubt, because we're literally being, the stuff that is happening to us, I can't even say in the live, right? So that's one point, that we don't have that privilege, right? If you want to talk about evidence, as I said, I can show you right now multiple flight logs of that very aircraft going from the country in GCC all the way to Chad in the Adri border, and then going back in a certain pattern, that feeds the RSF. That's the second thing. And the final thing is, why I was so disappointed with Traore is because I know...
Can you show us, before you continue, can you show us those flight patterns, please?
Absolutely. Give me a second.
You wake up and get a chance.
Can you guys see anything? Can you guys hear me? Oh, the
We
screen.
can hear you now, but it's blank. For the record, at least in my opinion, I would make the same request of anyone saying anything about any African country or group of people if I don't already have like my own understanding of them. There's certain things. Well, I would still do it, even if I did stereotype a country. I would still try to make sure. But yeah, it's not specific to one country.
Wait, the person who said same thing happened in every African country, that's not true. African countries, after they were colonized, they received their independence. Eritrea was a country that did not receive its independence and instead was forcibly federated with Ethiopia, so recolonized again. So no, the Eritrean struggle is very unique. I know that people try to whitewash what Ethiopia did by making it seem as if what happened in Eritrea was just the same thing that happened in every African country. That's not true. It was the only country that was denied independence after being colonized by Europeans. It had like 30 years worth of G-side. 30 years the war lasted, which is one of the longest, if not the longest, war independence struggle in Africa. 30 years, 30. And also, you cannot say that it wasn't a G-side when the Eritrean people didn't have their military. They were guerrilla fighters, whereas Ethiopia had help and military aid from the West. It had aid from the Soviet Union, from America, from Germany, from East and West Germany, from the UK. It was getting help from the whole African Union, from African countries supported it. It had blue and white state pilots. It had Soviet pilots and Ethiopian pilots all bombarding us. It had 19,000 Cuban mercenaries and also South Yemeni soldiers too. So no. Like, you cannot sit here and pretend as if it wasn't a G-side when you had one military, fully funded, fully fledged military with an air force and everything, being supported by two superpowers, America and Russia, and by a majority of the Western world, and also by a majority of African countries, and then engaging in this G-side against a people who didn't have their own military, who were just rebel fighters. You can't say that was just it wasn't a G-side. It was a G-side. That would be like saying what the blue and white state is doing today in Palestine is just a war. It's not a G-side. No, it is a G-side. If you have a military and you're fighting against a people who don't have a military and you're using all of this force and might to exterminate them, that is a G-side. Lies and tells you it happened in every other African country, that is not true. What happened in Eritrea is unique even for the African context. So I'd highly recommend people to look into that instead of just allowing people to whitewash the situation of what happened.
All right. Can you guys hear me?
We can hear you.
All right. So first off, anyone can check this information. It's very easy, either from flight radar or flight registries. Tamam? I'm going to show you the pattern of what I'm talking about. Okay. Now this is the first aircraft departing from Al Ain.
Now, Khalid,
We had it.
you're cutting out, Khalid. Can you?
Yeah, it's very easy to.
Can you repeat what you just said? Because you keep cutting out.
What? Someone in the comments said, I don't want to be exposed. I asked someone to minimize the comments so we can see the details of the flight.
We can't hear anything. Yeah. So, Khalid, if you're speaking, we can't hear what you're saying.
And I'll add another hypothetical to this. How do we know for certain that these flight logs are legitimate? And I'm not being funny here. I'm being serious, and I'm not trying to be contrarian. I'm being serious based off a conversation that I had the other day on this panel and another about how, for instance, I can't even say that system's name, but the system that shows cargo and other ships on the water, it's already been mentioned that they can be spoofed. Like, so many of these things can be spoofed. They can make something appear where it's not a vessel. In my opinion, I'm speculating, please look this up yourself. A vessel can be parked somewhere, okay? And for some reason, the radar. Yeah, wait one moment, please. I can hear you now, but you keep going in and out. So I can't even get my words together. A vessel can be in one location, and for some reason, depending on an external entity's desires, they could possibly, I'm speaking speculatively, they could make that vessel appear to be in another location. So is there any possibility that this could be a mistake? You said that you can afford to think that way, take that chance as a Sudanese person. And I do understand that, right? I'm not asking you to. I'm just saying, for the reasons that we know historically of certain organizations trying to undermine African unity and also trying to make African leadership, especially the ones who are trying to be sovereign or self-determining, look a certain way. That's what I'm concerned about. But I will still look at your evidence. But I just wanted to say that we can't preclude external interference. That's what I wanted to say. Let me look at. Is it up yet?
Did you hear what she said, Khalid? She said,
I did.
Okay, good.
I did. Can you guys hear me clearly?
Yeah. Host, are we able to make the comments smaller so that we can see more of the flight details, because they're at the bottom of the screen? I said make the comments smaller. What do I mean? Like, what do you do? Pause? Not pause them, but yeah. Thank you. Sorry, I'm tired.
All right.
Okay.
So you guys can hear me clearly, right?
Yes, you're good.
So in regards to the fact that flight radars can be spoofed, this type is it's seemingly impossible, because when you fly an aircraft, you have to give your coordinates of where you're going, where you're coming out of and going to. It's like a law in aviation. If you know about the aviation generally, it's for the safety of the aircraft itself. You know, you have to give as much information as possible, and because you don't want two airplanes colliding in the sky, right? So You can't really spoof this kind of information.
You cut out again, Khaled. You cut out again.
What I'm showing you right now
You cut out
is
again.
from
Can you repeat the last 20 seconds, 30 seconds?
flight radar itself. The very same.
You're cutting out really bad.
Radar system that
You're cutting out really bad. We didn't hear you for the past minute. Yikes. We didn't hear you for the past minute if you're listening to us. By the way, that XT, you see any?
Yeah, XT-ABN.
Yep, that's the registration code for the flight. Check out which country XT belongs to.
you still can't hear me, right?
Now we can hear you, but we couldn't hear you for the past minute. XT, check out which country code XT is registered to. But yeah, continue, Khalid.
I think when I open my camera or the internet goes bad. So I'm gonna talk first and then show images and then close the camera. And I'm so sorry for the trouble.
It's cool.
But as I was saying, you can't really spoof these radars because I don't know where you guys stopped hearing me or my internet got cut. When you're in the aviation industry, you need to give your coordinates, the kind of aircraft and everything for your own safety. Because if not, you'd have, if radars could be spoofed, you'd have aircrafts colliding all over the place. You're looking at thousands and thousands of aircrafts flying in the air in the same time, and you need that coordination. And the flight radars that I'm showing you is from that very same registry the whole aviation industry uses. Okay? Now, you saw the first picture. Do you guys
He cut out again,
need me
didn't he?
to open it again or go to the next one?
You kind of cut out again, but
We saw this photo though. Yeah, XT, by the way, is registered.
Did I cut out again?
Yeah, you cut out.
Is
But
it the
now,
Vegas country?
Fuck's sake, man.
no, it's Burkina Faso.
Oh, really? Okay, maybe I saw where it came from.
No, it's coming from the Vegas country, yeah, but the flight is registered under Burkina Faso, in Burkina Faso. Because it's Batot Air. I think he's showing. Mm-hmm.
You should hear me better now, right?
Yeah.
There it goes again. This is the first time this happens, by the way. I don't know.
We can hear you though.
Okay, so yeah, so that's that picture. Let me show you the next one. This is the picture or the flight going into RSF territory. And this is the flight coming back. Can you guys see?
Wait, I didn't see it in the territory. I just see it flying. Am I missing something?
Oh, if you check the coordinates of the picture.
Are they visible or am I tripping?
Can you hear me?
I don't know if I see coordinates right now.
Hear you, Khalid. Can you explain? Oh,
I see this, yeah.
it's cutting out.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on.
I think he showed another photo and it didn't show though. So they usually fly over to Chad or Ethiopia. And then sometimes when they get over, oh, there we go.
Can you send me this, please, so I can see it in full?
Yeah, this is what I was saying, that they're registered in August 2024. Batot Air.
I don't think you guys can hear me. Can you guys hear me?
Now we can hear you.
If you were talking, then no, I
So this
couldn't.
is no, I wasn't. I was just showing you the pictures of each aircraft. These were different aircrafts, all belonging to Batut Air, based in Burkina Faso.
Okay, cool.
And
I was
yeah,
asking
so
if
this
you
is the last piece of evidence where it shows everything else. I'm sorry for the trouble, by the way. You know, third world country internet and all.
It's okay. It's okay. Don't apologize for that.
All right. So when you're searching for things like this, you'll have to know how geopolitics works. You have to do extensive research. You can't just take surface value information because that's what they want you to see in the context of how the world works. They plain Betu or whatever company this is a company registered in Burkina Faso. I want you to do this in Google if you can. Type in that company, Batut Air, if you can, and then type in Front Company, and then also you can type in Shell Company and see what you find. So do you trust Sudan Tribune time? Tribune?
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, I
Okay.
do trust Sudan too.
All right. I'm gonna send you an article from them. And the owner of this company, that's saying it belongs to a Sudanese businessman.
Yes.
Now,
So is the companies that were in the Vegas country.
But I'm talking about the airline.
Correct. Yes.
So
But
if you are aware, do you know when it comes to ships like cargo ships? Do you know this? They get that registered at some of them registered at vessels in different countries for Shell.
Correct.
So why are you trying to blame Burkina Faso for something like this?
Here's why.
If companies can register companies in various countries to hide that true identity.
Here's why. Because in the aviation industry,
right,
for you to register or for an airline to be registered in a state and then that airline to be used, let's say for the simplicity of it, for rent by another country, the state needs to know what the aircraft is going to be used for and the amount of flights, where to and where from. The level of details in the aviation deals is very extensive to the two because they weigh everything, the fuel, where it's going to be staying, this whole thing. So the fact that the state agreed, knowing that these aircrafts will be used from these said locations and going to these locations where it's in Sudan, and I'm sure Burkina Faso's intelligence is strong enough to decode or to analyze the fact that this is being used to harm Sudan. And I'm not being, by the way, this is not some superficial or an emotional point of view. This is a pure analysis. If you know, if you Google right now, the way registration works when you're registering or when you have a airline registered to you, but you're giving your aircrafts to another country to be used, check the deals or check what needs to be agreed upon for that deal to go through. You'll find out that the country state or the registered Burkina Faso, meaning they need to know every little detail about all the flights that are going to go along. So it's not basically like, hey, Vegas country, you can have the airplane and for this set amount of time. It's not as simple as that. It's about this set amount of time. Where are you going to use it for? From where to where? And
but that's not true, though. It can be. If companies are doing this, you can't be talking like this, brother. If continue, I'm just talking about Burkina Faso. I'm talking about just companies using shell companies in general. If what you're saying is true, then there won't be no shell companies because people use shell companies for anonymity. You can't come out here to just be blabbing about they should know all the details, everything that happens. They will know. That's not how it works, brother. Show me evidence. Show me evidence of what you're talking about, that any shell company, that is any business that is registered by any country, be it Cayman Islands, be it Switzerland, be it anywhere in this world, when you register a shell company, that the country should know the full operations of what happens with that company. And its operations is what you said, that it should know the full details, especially in the realm of aviation. Show me what evidence you have to show that what you're saying is actually factual.
Okay.
I understand what's happening in your country, brother, but I don't allow misinformation on my platform.
Oh, absolutely. And respectfully, this is not blabbering. I don't even have the privilege.
Then please provide evidence then.
As I said, if you give me a second, I'll provide whatever needs to be provided. But I need you to do something if you would have the time or another device next to you, right? Google or try to see how registered countries have aviation deals when it comes to their airlines. Just see how it goes down. A very simple Google search. It is very, very different from any sort of company operations like a shell company working, because we've had that. The Vegas country, all of the companies used to pay out the RSF combatants, they're all shell companies owned by people who are not of the same country as the Vegas country. All of them. None of them are owned by an actual citizen of that country. So we're very well aware of the nuances of how.
So are you going to show me? I hear you. Are you going to show me your evidence then, please?
What else would you want? What would you deem as
what you're
evidence?
saying is that Burkina Faso should be fully aware of all its operational details when it comes to aviation.
So you want me to do the Google search?
I don't know what you're going to do. I just need evidence.
The thing is, I just explained how it works. The only way
I heard
I
you.
can only Google it.
Now I want evidence.
I can Google it and take a screenshot if you'd like. If that's
if that's what you have to do.
Sure, just give me a second then.
So here's my question, right? Is this assumption that, Burkina and the other countries are operating at a level of, I guess, the average country that has all of these things in check, when earlier you agreed with me that like you mentioned their intelligence should know. And I just said earlier, and I was trying to be respectful, but like there was a whole very thoroughly planned coup attempt that was happening right under their noses, and it involved multiple people within their government, their military, and some of their neighbors' countries. So there's no way for me to say what I'm trying to say without it sounding really bad, but I just feel like for this moment, I feel like we have a lot of expectations of them being able to foresee everything, especially when we're talking about all of these things taking place during, right? They're fighting T groups. They have multiple coup attempts. They have the Western countries, applying pressure to them more directly when it comes to how they use their resources. And then on top of this, you have someone who is African, who is Sudanese, comes to set up an airplane or an aviation company, and then there
exists.
Huh?
We don't know if that Sudanese man exists because there's nothing on that person.
Right, but we want to believe that it's a Burkina Faso company. Then we're gonna believe one half of the story.
Nobody. Wait, hold on. Nobody said it was a Burkina. 1 second. So I don't know.
You said XT belongs to Burkina Faso. You try to help.
Yes, it's registered with Burkina Faso. Wait, hold on. It's registered with Burkina Faso. It's registered in Burkina Faso.
We never. If I didn't bring up the shell company aspect, we won't be having this discussion right now.
I understand what a shell company is, but this isn't like an average shell company. This is an airline. You have to understand that this isn't an average shell company, but an airline. So there's going to be differences.
What's an average shell company?
Shell company would be like what the blue and white state did in like Eritrea, where they opened up like a beef packing factory, because they had a deal with Ethiopia, but then they used that meat packing factory to send spies to like other Africa, to the West Asia and stuff like that, right? So
What's
That would be
average?
like
What's average about that?
I'm saying is there's going to be more restrictions when it comes to airlines than
And
with companies.
I'm telling you, there's no restrictions.
Can I get big screen for a second? Hopefully my
I'm
internet.
gonna add this.
Hold
Yeah,
on.
sure. I'm gonna add this too, right?
Okay.
I just wanted to add
I
this,
don't know.
right? The
Hold on.
Alphabet Agency, that's okay, not the Alphabet, the three-letter org, they have had multiple airlines. How are they able to set up airlines throughout history? And they ran secretly as official airlines, but we can't believe that that's possible for this. That's what I'm asking.
So
I'm confused.
They start with a C and they end with an A, and they have a letter in the middle.
So even in your search request, it tells you that the company only put $17,000 in the bank, and that's a red flag, and that's a red. It's right on the screen. It's right on the screen.
Yes, can you hear me?
So what kind of airline company operates with $17,000?
Can you? Is my voice clear?
And the plane never makes it back to Burkina Faso at all.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. So there's the part where it's not about the deal, how much they paid. The question was, does Burkina Faso know? Because what you said as a counter to what I said was the fact that we can't expect Burkina Faso as the state or the airlines registered to that said country, Burkina Faso. You can't tell me they know all the operations. And you cited the fact that, hey, shell companies and whatnot. There's an air operator certificate. This requires, as said here, a deep dive into the company finances and safety protocols. Now, if you do a deep dive in that very same deal, you'd notice, because you cannot have the deal without the deep dive, i.e. deep dive knowing every detail as much as you can. Now, the fact that it's $17,000 and whatnot is irrelevant, because we know that's not the real number.
Can you read that? Is that clear for you guys?
Yes.
Brother, my question is, you think that Burkina Faso did a deep dive?
It says right here, Bateau Air appears to be a classic brass plate company set up in Burkina Faso to exploit its registration, but with no physical presence or oversight there. The operations are actually facilitating an air bridge between UAE and Ethiopia to supply the RSF. Do you understand
Wait,
what
I said
means?
that before, though. You didn't hear me. I literally said that before. I said no flight has ever landed in Burkina Faso.
Exactly.
We heard you. So how was this Burkina Faso?
The part you didn't mention was that it was set up in Burkina Faso to exploit its registration. So when it says to exploit, meaning there's a loophole that has been discovered, and whoever is operating this or whoever is doing this, you said that Solomon doesn't exist. So whoever is doing this knows quite well there's a loophole that they've discovered and that they're using it. It actually says here that they turn off that transponder. Like he said, you can always know where the flight patterns are. Planes turn off that transponders all the time. I don't know. Well, I'm not gonna. Okay. I don't want to stuck like that. I'm just be.
I concede to the fact that they can be exploited. Yes, but I ask you this: do you think Burkina Faso does not know that an airline registered to their state?
That's not how this world works, brother.
No. I know.
That's not how this world works.
I understand. Just hear me out.
This happened. Look. You know how dirty this world is. This is not how this world works.
Yes, the world is a terrible place.
I can probably find you 10 other planes, 10 other countries. The United States do this all the time. Do you know how many planes they whatchamacallit, the Alphabet folks own that we don't know what countries they're registered in?
Sir, respectfully, I know very well how terrible this world is. Okay? That's one. I know how this world operates and how.
You started your submissions claiming. Hold on. No. Hold on. You started. I was listening quietly. Started your submission claiming that Burkina Faso. He put it on Burkina Faso. He labeled it on Burkina Faso. He didn't say there was a shell company. He didn't say XYZ. He said the government of Burkina Faso. And he said all these countries involved. Now I'm digging deeper with you. Your story's changing a little bit. So how do I believe you in anything you're saying moving forward when your original submission was trying to paint Burkina Faso in a bad light?
Okay, I am still as consistent as it can be. If you can hear me out to the end.
No, you're not.
You keep cutting me off, so I can't finish even my plane to land.
Finish your statement.
Okay, so you conceded, or I conceded to the fact that you said, why not it being exploited? Meaning that there's a loophole, i.e., maybe Burkina Faso state did not know about this. Am I right in your conclusion?
Give me a second.
Because if so, are you telling me Burkina Faso, the state, and I'm not saying Sister Ini, she made a good point. There's a lot of coup attempts, there's a lot of corrupt people that they were there. I understand, right? But again, from a perspective of someone who cannot have the privilege to give anyone the benefit of the doubt, are you telling me that the state did not know?
Yes, I just read it. I just read it to you, brother. I just read it to you.
I think what also needs to be added here is that Burkina Faso in 2025 decided to strengthen relations with the Vega state. So in 2025, the same time that the flights were being sent, right? Which I'm not going to make any. As I mentioned before, I do not know if it knows about the Batot Air or not. I'm not sure. But it did decide to strengthen relations in 2025, and that is something that you can look up. Not only did the Vegas and the GCC invite the foreign minister, I think, of Burkina Faso to there, but then that GCC state was invited by Ibrahim Traore to Burkina Faso as well. They got so close to the point where I think Ben Zayed even congratulated Burkina Faso on its Independence Day. So starting 2025, they have been politically strengthening their relationship and partnership to the point where Burkina Faso was even looking into getting buying military support or aid from the Vegas and the GCC, and that's something you can look up yourself.
Yeah,
that they are getting closer in 2025.
And I want to show another picture.
That's a fine assertion. That's a fine assertion. Wait, that's a fine assertion to make. If we're gonna criticize them for something, I think we should criticize them for something that is less speculative. Like those are things that have been widely reported, and you can see them, right? And whether or not we agree with it, they are what they are. But we can't assume based off of all of the different amounts of deception involved in what we were just talking about, that they intentionally or were made privy to an aircraft that never landed in their country being used in a G-side, like their name being used as registration. I think that's not the same as them strengthening ties with UAE, like strengthening ties with the Vegas GCC. What the fuck am I saying? The Vegas of GCC, that is enough for us to actually, make some Pan-African critiques. But I wouldn't extend it beyond that at this point.
Can I ask you a question? Right. So if we won't agree on the fact that the whole cargo airline and all of that, okay, no problem. Explain to me.
Just before we go further, please, Covey, the plane was registered in 2024. You said that earlier, correct?
2024, but then it started operating in 2025.
Correct. And then the diplomatic and countries have general diplomatic ties. That's nothing new.
But it's not just a general diplomatic tie. They've gotten very close.
What makes them very close?
I mean, they have said themselves that they have gotten close and they want to get closer.
Not to you. I know they said that. So what makes them unusual, like other diplomatic ties?
I think it's unusual to start getting closer to a country in 2025, knowing that they're G-siding other Africans and knowing how they're operating.
What do you mean? I mean,
they started getting closer in 2025. We already know how this country operates.
For them to get to create a diplomatic tie in an isolated world, they're isolated, right?
Yeah, Eritrea is also isolated.
Right. So you understand what I'm like. Thank you for that.
but
So you understand.
we kicked
So for
them
them
out
to be
though.
making diplomatic,
We
right,
kicked them out though. The three
for your own unique reasons. I don't know what the unique reason
No,
is.
we
Maybe you
kicked
can
them out
educate
because we
us.
realized how expansionist they were. We kicked them out in
Okay.
2021 because we realized how expansionist they were,
And
right?
how long before that did you have a relationship, diplomatic relationship?
It was after 2018, I think.
So just
So
a few
not
years.
very long.
Not very long. So every country is different. We can't just say because you kicked them out in 2021 doesn't make Burkina Faso shouldn't have a diplomatic tie with them. Just because your country doesn't have diplomatic ties with the United States doesn't mean any other country shouldn't have a diplomatic tie
No,
with
it's
the
not
United
about that.
States.
My point is, no, it's not about that. My point is, like, for example, Thomas Sankara was a Pan-African and he decided to kick out all these countries. He decided to become self-reliant. And that was, in my opinion, that's the right way to go. And that's precisely why they took him out. Yes, he kicked out Eastern countries, Western countries. He kicked them out. He kicked out foreign aid because he believed that the hand who feeds you controls you. Like, he kicked out these countries and he wanted to make Burkina Faso very self-reliant. And within 4 years, he achieved so much. And that's precisely why they took him out, because they knew how dangerous that would be. So I think like if a country or an entity is claiming to be the leader of Pan-Africanism, that claiming to liberate Africa, why would you get close to a country who you know is actively working to control Africa?
You know what? Let me put a spin to this.
It's a fair question.
Just a question. Just a question. I'm sorry. Before
hold on.
Hold on. Let the mod go.
Hold on, real quick. What is your opinion about the beer and the war in Ukraine right now? As a neutral, right now.
I don't focus on that, to be fair.
Okay. Because as a neutral, if you zoom in on what is going on in Ukraine right now, you can technically say the beer is committing that kind of a genocide. You understand me? But that being said, the beer is one of the most potent partners of upcoming African countries right now. You know that?
Who's the bear? I'm so confused.
Okay, let me just.
Okay. I'm so sorry. I'm trying to understand.
Yes. And we're seeing that and the bear has a history of supporting African liberation movements.
I mean, they supported our G side. I have like a very...
Okay, there you go.
No, but I have a very...
So I'm showing you how geopolitics works, though.
I understand how geopolitics works.
Yeah, exactly.
I fully understand. But when we look at the Vegas of the GCC, they are very aggressive with their funding. They're the number one investor in Africa right now. Number one or number two investor in Africa right now. When they're investing in African countries, they're also acquiring stakes. They have acquired the stake. They acquired the largest tin mine company in the Democratic Republic of Congo. They have acquired so much land. The Blue Carbon, which is a company that was started by the Maktoum family of Dubai, they bought land that is the size of the UK, right? So this is just one company, Blue Carbon. Each royal family has multiple relatives and members that have started their own companies, and they're actively buying up so much land. They're like the Dutch East India Company or whatever it is. That's what they are. They're aggressively investing so much in Africa and acquiring so much as well. And when we know how dangerous they are...
Okay, let me. I need to.
Do you understand what I mean?
Yeah, I get you. Let me flip it on the other side now. Do you know about the paper that put out that did that investigation? You know the name? Le Monde?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yes, yeah. Do you know how Le Monde was established in 1944?
It probably has a horrible history because it's French.
Okay, so Le Monde was established on the request of the French government during the liberation of Paris. You see that? Connect the dots.
Wait, but even if we ignore the Batut Air, which is what that investigation had to do, my point is,
do you get my side of this story though? Do you get where I'm coming from?
We have to be open. We have to be open to receive and not just
Yeah,
argue.
I don't get.
No, I fully understand. I fully understand what he's saying.
Yeah, so I'm not even done with what I'm saying though. First of all, my first red flag is that Le Monde was funded in '44 by the request of the French government. Even though they eventually said they went private, we know they during the liberation of Paris, and it is also known that they are sympathetic to the SAF.
Add to what you guys are saying.
But the SAF is a currently recognized military, though.
What I'm saying is that this is my own perspective. This is my own POV right now. I'm not concluding stuff, but knowing how it plays, how people be playing mind games. I believe there might be someone in the Burkina Faso government that is aware of this shit, but because of the lapse of probably one corrupt individual, you can't put that on the entire Burkina government, though.
No, I wasn't putting it on the entire Burkina Faso.
Yeah. That's the rhetoric I'm trying to. That man.
Yeah. I wasn't putting on the entire government.
I've been listening. It's been going on for the past 45 minutes, 1 hour, and not clarifying that this might be just one or two people that corrupt in the airline industry in Burkina Faso running shit. We understand how it works. We in Africa. We know. You understand me? But putting that on the
geopolitics is not a clean business. Exactly. No, there's nothing clean about geopolitics or politics in general.
Come on,
nothing
man.
clean about it. You're gonna find all kind of mess and dirts in anywhere you look. Yes, should they be doing any deal with UAE? Maybe not. But UAE's out here putting up, saying they're gonna put up internet access for them. Invest in that digital currency when they're trying to get away from CFA. There's a lot of moving parts. But to connect these dots to that airline that was shell company that was created in Burkina Faso. There's no connection to that. Thank you, Empress. I didn't see that earlier. Thank you, Empress. Appreciate you, and also for last night. I said it. Thank you, Empress. But we yes. After this, brother, you're gonna say what you want to say, but we can't be trying to pinpoint. Saying that they shouldn't be, and it's not like they're the only country in Africa or the only country in the world having diplomatic ties with UAE. You understand what UAE is doing? KSA was also doing some bad things before, but they're doing business with all kinds of people. They butchered somebody in the embassy of Turkey. And still people are still doing business with them, even after it made mainstream media.
We saw it live. We saw it happen live.
Just 1 second.
I'm not saying the world is. I'm not saying that I agree with them doing business with UAE, but we can't just say because of what's going on they should cut off all ties. These people are struggling to even have their head out.
All right, I totally understand that. Now you mentioned geopolitics, right? Now, from what I understand from your point of view, is in geopolitics, you look at what benefits your country most, right? So, for example, in a case of Burkina Faso, where it's been isolated for so long, that can justify it having business ties with that country. This is from what I understood, because that's how geopolitics work. I totally understand that. But Burkina Faso is not any other country. The anchor of this conversation is the fact that Traoré came with a revolutionary calling, that he's a Pan-Africanist, he's for Pan-Africa. You cannot compare the situation where he's having deals with the Bear or any other country, because Traoré was a beacon of hope, and I hope he still is, because I can concede to the fact there can someone who is corrupt in there, but not Traoré or the government. I can concede to that. However, you cannot downgrade the fact that this very country, what they stand for is Pan-Africanism. You cannot compare their foreign policy with the countries outside. The countries outside are not like Burkina Faso. They did not have an ambitious young leader who came out with the anchor being, hey, we want to unite Africa. Where the issue lies is the same reason, for example, in Sudan, they wanted us before the war, and one of the reasons the war started, they wanted us to have diplomatic relations with the blue country and sign the Abraham Accords. Why did we refuse? Even though geopolitically, that would have been the best thing for us. We would have had our debt gone away. Everything would have been fixed. But why didn't we do that? Even though we know geopolitically it is within our benefit. We didn't do that, and other countries as well in Africa, because they know that that state is a genocidal state. Now, when I look at Burkina Faso as a country that stands upon the fact that it's a Pan-African state, it does not make sense to me for you to not only have diplomatic relations, right, and have good ties with that said government that is literally genociding a country in Africa. Traore himself came out and said,
Hold on. So I need to cut you real quick.
No problem. Go on.
Okay. I need to just a little Q&A. When did Traore become president of Burkina Faso?
He didn't stay for long. He's very recent.
Well, do you have an idea, like a rough estimate, like when?
I wouldn't say more than 2 years or something. He was very recent. I remember. We're busy with our war. So
okay. So are you aware that as of last year, the European Union still giving 50.1 million euros?
I was not aware of that. No.
Yeah. The funding never stopped. The funding from the European Union, from the US, it never stopped. You didn't know that?
The funding from the European Union to Burkina Faso?
Yeah, it never stopped. To the all Sahel countries, the funding never stopped, regardless. Even though he cut
off the ability to exploit them.
The French, but the funding, the humanitarian aid, the relationship, it never stopped.
And he doesn't help them anymore. That's smart of him.
What?
Yes.
No. Did you? I said it never stopped. They're still funding Burkina Faso.
Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
That's how geopolitics works. You want to one is
yes, but
they have to keep taking that until they're stabilized.
Yes, I understand, but taking their money doesn't necessarily mean, Brother Taylor. I didn't finish my point because
that's what I'm saying.
One final point.
Yeah, go ahead.
The fact that he takes their money or anything, right? This is absolutely good. That's smart, no problem. But the difference is he's no longer a like a slave like all our past leaders were. He takes the money, but he does not follow their orders. Back then, all our leaders, they would take money from the European Union, but they would also in return take orders from them. Traore does not do that. This is a smart move from Traore. He's taking advantage of the fact that these organizations stood for the fact that we're aiding anyone neutrally. We don't care about anything but the people. But he's not, and that's smart. He's not doing their bidding exactly. This is a smart thing. But what he's doing, or what some of the government or some of the people in the government are doing with that Vegas country, is not only accepting aid or deals. How can you stand for being a Pan-Africanist and host the foreign minister at the very same time that there's a genocide happening in your country? You know, Traore himself came out and said, what is happening in Sudan is a genocide to our black fellows. He even knows about it and he spoke about it. This is my issue. I'm not telling you Burkina Faso is very different from any other country. But I'm saying when you are as ambitious and you stand with a moral caliber like Pan-Africanism, then yes, I will hold you by that standard. How can you have a genocide? You're not any country that to have geopolitical business deals with a country that is doing against what you stand for. And one last point to someone saying I'm disingenuous because I'm Muslim. Ibrahim Traore is Muslim as well. But go on.
So when you're talking about diplomatic ties, right? You're not talking about weaponry. You're not talking about things that have to do with WAR. You're talking about economic side of dealing with countries. This is how countries work. You don't just walk a straight line. It's multi-pronged. You're gonna have to do things sometimes that are not 100% in what you might align with in this world. And they are isolated. What part of that don't you understand? These people need to feed people. They're having babies. They need to build hospitals. They're building roads. They need to develop. They cannot function in an isolated world. You want them to only deal with Russia and that's it? You don't think they need to expand who they do business with? And whoever brings the investment, if it's diplomatic and not on the military or defense side of things, they can't accept it.
Don't tell me he's Pan-Africanist when his
What do you mean by don't tell? What's wrong with doing that and being Pan-Africanist?
Explain what you're.
Okay, hold on. What is Pan-Africanism? What is Pan-Africanism?
Exactly.
African unification.
Hold on, brother. What is Pan-Africanism? Let's just make sure
in
we're on
my
the same page.
simple, uneducated understanding, it is the idea to unite the whole of Africa as one nation. Or
that's not what it means. That's not what it means. Okay, that's not what it means. In your simple understanding of it, it's totally incorrect.
Okay, now I see where you got the problem.
And then number two, with your simple definition, that was incorrect. Why can't you do that? That was incorrect, and still do your diplomatic ties on international stages with other countries that's outside of Africa?
I'll tell you why.
Sure.
Would you accept if Burkina Faso or any other country that you see that they are good, they hosted and had relations with the country, let alone the fact that Burkina it stands for Pan-Africanism, or let's say not even Pan-Africanism, they care for all African countries. He's the only leader that came out and said that I care for every other African country, regardless of if I know what Pan-African is or not. All right, we can simplify it to say Traore, when he came to power, he came under the notion, and I heard him say it many times, that he looks forward to having a united Africa. He said it so many times. Regardless of what Pan-Africanism, I know what his plan is, and I commend him for it. But you can't tell me that, Mr. Traore, and at the same instance you host a genocidal government's foreign minister. Same as if I ask you, Mr. Host, would you accept if they hosted the foreign minister of Israel?
Okay, when you finish.
Yeah.
Finish.
Can you tell me, would you accept if they hosted the foreign minister of the blue country and had diplomatic and business relations with them? Would you accept it, even though morally it is very wrong and they're unaliving people in Palestine and all of that, right? But it's geopolitically beneficial for your people. Would you then accept that?
Okay, so me personally, I'm not in geopolitics, but just on a layman's level, I wouldn't try. But geopolitics is complicated. So let me ask you this: how come a lot of countries have diplomatic ties with Israel right now, the small hats in Africa, and how come a lot of countries have diplomatic ties with the United States in Africa right now? Can you tell me why?
Traore hasn't publicly invited any.
No, I'm saying in Africa. I didn't say one country. I said many countries in Africa.
Yeah, but he hasn't invited them though, because Burkina Faso has still remained.
I'm talking about something different. Please, let's don't topic.
No, I'm talking about. I understand what you're saying, but I'm saying not only diplomatic ties, but he hasn't publicly invited them. Like they the diplomats.
Invited who?
From the I state, from the blue and white state. Ibrahim Traore has not.
I'm not okay. Please,
them.
I'm not talking about Burkina Faso at this instance. I'm talking about African countries.
No, but I'm saying why is there a boundary for that country but not a boundary for the UAE?
I'm just trying to see something. Can we stay
on topic,
legitimate please?
Question.
Can we stay on topic? Can we stay on topic?
Question was the countries that have ties with the blue country. How do I feel about them? In Africa.
Based on the G side they've committed. I just want to hear your perspective. Yes. Then there's a lot of them. And also, not just blue and whites, the red, blue and white also, that was responsible for unaliving many of the African leaders and have done so many heinous things in the continent, poisoning waters and all the other things that they've done.
Horrific.
Why are they still maintaining diplomatic ties in Africa?
Let me tell you why.
Okay,
Let me tell you why. The moral standard I put Burkina Faso is different from all African countries. Do you know why? Because most African nations, unfortunately, or most of them, are run by puppet leaders. So if one of their leaders, all these countries that are okay with the blue country, said that, hey, we are for Africans and we hope to unify, and that's their slogan, I will say, hey, you are disingenuous. But none of them said so. All of them I know are puppet leaders except Traore. This is why I am so upset. Traore was strong enough to repel and kick out the imperialists around in his country. So this is why I hold him to a different moral caliber. If, for example, compare Egypt. Egypt never said it cares for African countries. The president never came out and said, hey, I care for a unified Africa or anything. He never said that. So I won't hold him to standard because he have no moral caliber. But when I see someone like Ibrahim Traore with all the achievements he did, and the fact that his anchor is that he wants for a unified Africa, of course I will look at him differently from every other country that has relations with the blue country. I hope you understand.
Okay, so do you two understand that Burkina Faso is in dire need of having relationships, financial relationships with countries? And UAE is bringing that. Are you aware how that countries need a budget to function, for schools, for development, to survive? And Burkina Faso, at this particular instance, it's needing that, number one. Number two, are you aware that France, Algeria, are fighting for soft power, or they're fighting for who's going to have the better relationship in certain regions of the world right now? And UAE at this instance is also trying to counter France because they're trying to rise up, right? And understand what they're doing. They're trying to rise up in the world to counter France. Are you aware that by getting and deepening their diplomatic ties and doing investment deals with Burkina Faso counters the former French colony?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Do you understand that?
I do. But
okay,
can
then.
I ask you a question in return?
Yes, but I like for people to answer questions first. I don't understand why questions have been answered with questions. I don't like those kind of conversations. I like answers first, and then we can ask questions second. So please answer the question first based on what your understanding of geopolitics is. And then when we're done with that, then I can answer the question you have.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I totally understand what you said. And it makes sense.
What can you talk about it? Because I don't think, what did I say?
The fact that the GCC country is, the Vegas country, is trying to subdue the French hegemony around Burkina Faso. And for Burkina, this is what I understood, for Burkina Faso, that's an opportunity, right? Is that the
subdue? Did you say French or did you just say Burkina Faso?
No. The Vegas is trying to subdue French interference or hegemony around Burkina Faso. And this is beneficial for Burkina Faso.
It's beneficial for all of them in different ways. It's beneficial for UAE in its own unique way. It's beneficial for Burkina Faso in its another unique way, because then they're not only dependent on France for their needs, now they're expanding where they get their income from for their GDP, gross domestic products, investments, foreign direct investments. All these things matter. A country needs to function. He's trying to develop. He's trying to counter. T groups in his country. So he's going to do everything in his power, and he's going to make every decision. He's going to try to make the best possible decisions he can possibly make. He needs to build hospitals. He needs to take care of babies. He needs to take care of women. He needs to take care of the elderly. He needs to make sure there's cash flow flowing into the country.
Correct, yes. And I do not blame him for that. But, and I understand your point of view. Can I get to ask my question?
Yes. Go ahead.
Thank you. Okay. For sake of simplicity, let's say me, Khalid, in Africa, I have a country. And I rose to power under the notion of I will never bend the knee or have any relations with any imperialistic government. For example. But then when I came to power, and mind you, this is the whole slogan I came up as, that I will never have a genocidal nation.
Did he say that? Did he say that? Are you making up?
No. I'm trying to reference the him unifying Africa. You'll get my point until the end. Just hear me out, okay? And I come to power knowing that I made a promise to my people that I will care for, or I will be against any genocidal government. But then, because I'm suffering financially and I need it for the better sake of my people, would it be okay for me to break my promise under the justification that it will benefit me in my country? For example, the blue country. Do you think countries are justified to have diplomatic and business relations with the blue country, even though it's genocidal, but we justify that because these countries have gone through so much and they need to have these relations with them? Does that justify it? I hope you understand my question.
Can you repeat the last portion one more time, please?
The last portion is this. Would it, is it a justification of working with a government of the blue country, that the justification is my country is very bad financially and my people are starving, and the only way I can help my people is to have relations and business relations with the blue country? Would that justify it?
And the blue country is the blue and white? Is that what we're talking about? Or are we talking about Las Vegas of the Middle East?
Las Vegas and the blue country, they're the same thing. So for the sake of simplicity, let's say the blue and white country. Would it justify it to have relations with the blue and white country?
No.
It doesn't. Okay. And even though that very country that is, you said no, it shouldn't have relations with that blue and white country, is going through absolute bad circumstances for its people, but it's still wrong, right? It's still wrong to have diplomatic relations with the blue and white country because of what they're doing in the Pali people, right? It's absolutely wrong. There is no justification. So explain to me, like you just said no now, why is there any justification for someone like Traore to have diplomatic and business relations with the Vegas country, knowing that it's doing the same thing as the blue and white country? The only thing that you have been countering with was that it is diplomatic, it is geopolitically and financially better for the country of Burkina Faso because they have been going through so much, they've been isolated and all of that. Do you see where it is incoherent?
I don't see it. The difference is that the blue and white country, they have been doing direct damage throughout the Gulf region of this of the world, and they've been using the United States to do heinous things.
So wait,
number one,
Vegas country is not the same?
Number one. Number two, the GCC Vegas country is doing something similar, but not at the level of the blue and white. It's doing something similar. It's doing it in Sudan, right? What are can you list the countries that are doing this in, so I can get a clear picture?
Yeah, so the Vegas country has done this to Sudan, Libya, Yemen.
When in Libya?
In Haftar, they're funding Haftar, the genocide that happened in Libya when Haftar came to power.
What year are we referring to?
I like to be disingenuous.
No, you don't. Just give me a range. You can give me a range.
You could say
post 2011.
No, after that. So it's Sheikh Zayed died. Mohammed bin Zayed came into power. I know it was post 2014, but this is known information. The fact that they're involved in Libya, they're involved in Somalia, they're involved in Eritrea. How they helped the genocide in Eritrea. Even Covey can substantiate that. But even if you let all that go aside, the Sudan alone and what the GCC, the Vegas country, did to Sudan alone is literally just as bad as what the blue and white country. You know why? Because it's not about the numbers, brother. It's about what they're doing and how they're doing it.
Okay.
The blue and white country, just one second. The blue and white country, they unalive kids and hospitals and they do all of that. It doesn't matter how much the numbers are. One kid or 1,000 kids, it's the same brutality. In Sudan, yes, the number is lower. Tamam. But the same maneuver, the same thing happened. Kids being unalived, women raped, everything at the behest of the Vegas country. So you can't tell me, hey, there's more numbers there, so I can cut the Vegas country some slack.
All right.
You
so
see
this,
how
this
that's...
is, no, let me answer your question. So this is how I see the world, and then so you can understand. What Burkina Faso did was liberate his country from a colonial rule or neo-colonialism rule that the French had them under, and they're still trying to liberate themselves. They're not done yet because it's still a fight. It's an ongoing fight, which is why they're broke at the moment. So they've been fighting this. The way the world works, because even the blue and white states, Burkina Faso they have diplomatic ties with the blue and white state. They have diplomatic ties that I'm gonna guess even with the Igbo nation, and they have diplomatic ties with the UAE nation. Diplomatic channels and diplomatic ties just simply means an avenue to try to maintain a relationship, so you don't just go from zero to WAR. You have a means of communication. You have diplomatic ties. You have ambassadors. You have diplomats that communicate, that deal with one another. When it comes to time for investments, it's up to you to decide if you want to take the investment or decide not to take the investment. So in this instance, this country decided to bring up money to do investments in that country. A KSA offered mosques. I don't know if you remember, you heard this news. They offered to build mosques. He declined that. He said, I prefer to build schools and other things of that. Now, UAE showed up to the doorstep. They have diplomatic channels, diplomatic ties. They have the channels open. That discussing. They brought up to the point that they hosted a forum for them to do investment deals. He accepted. It's business. We have to understand how the world works. You can't just isolate yourself just because you want to be a Pan-Africanist, like you're saying. And he wants one Africa, yes. But what he's fighting for, what he's really fighting for, if you listen to most of his speeches and everything he's saying, he's trying to liberate his people from the subjugation of this colonial masters. That's his number one plight. So what they're fighting for between Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger is seeking self-determination, meaning that anything that they're doing now, it's not going to be the colonial masters coming and telling them how to run that country or doing backroom door deals and cheating them and then exploiting them. They're now doing things on their own terms. So they're choosing their own partners. They have the right to do that. They're making the decisions for themselves to liberate themselves, to lift themselves up. And they're doing great. He's developing the country. He's building hospitals. He's building roads. He's doing great. He has the right to choose who he wants to invest with. Now, he can choose to say that's not what he stands for. He wants one Africa. But I don't see Ibrahim Traore traveling around Africa trying to see how he can save Africa. What I see him doing is working with AES countries and trying to make them be the best they can possibly be. I don't see him going around Africa, except for in speeches. He might say one or two things in speeches, but what he's fighting for is self-determination at the moment, finding a way to liberate himself. And if you don't see that, then I don't know what else to tell you, but you can go ahead and rebuttal.
Thank you. Respectfully, brother, we've came to a productive point where you said that there is no justification to have any kind of relation with the blue and white country. I remember that, and that's how we built on the conversation.
I thought about it some more.
Okay,
but keep going.
And you changed your mind then, right? That's what you're telling me?
Yes.
You changed your mind. Then, in this sense, I cannot really thank you, but I think I made my point clear that if you stand for something, right, then as fellow Americans say, you have to stand on business, right? So if you're telling me, right, that first, there is no justification, but then you selectively choose because this and that, then I'm sorry. I don't know else to say.
Don't worry. You don't have much. You don't have to say much. I'm telling you what
Thank
I'm
you.
telling you.
Understand.
That's where I stand.
Yeah, I
Ask
respect
something,
your stance.
please.
Go
Okay,
on.
so I've been listening to this the whole time. So, ideologically, I am in agreement with you, right? How it comes to applying the ideology, I also see what the host is talking about. So, ideally, no, we wouldn't have any relationships with any of the countries that exploit us. But then that would mean that we mostly wouldn't have relationships with most of the world, or at least most of the global north in certain global south countries that are industrialized. So what can I say to this? Earlier you had asked the question, and I'm going to answer it. I don't remember exactly how you answered it, but basically, like, how could someone who is proclaiming the principles of Pan-Africanism and represents Pan-Africanism and stands for, sovereignty and all these things like that, how could they make a deal or have a relationship with a country like the GCC, the Vegas or GCC? And I would say this, and I'm not saying that these are my views. These are not my views. I'm not a politician. I'm just trying to map out why politicians, leaders, states do the things that they do. Okay? So it's my understanding that a lot of times these people are playing a high stakes game of chess, right? And so one thing I've noticed from his speeches and also his maneuvers is that he's very concerned with the upcoming future of West Africa. And so this is not to say that making deals with the Vegas GCC is going to necessarily be beneficial to West Africa as a whole, but I believe that he's looking for pseudo-alternative forms of funding so that he can establish and protect the sovereignty of his country and the greater AES, so that he could potentially be an anchor for the region of West Africa to liberate itself. That's how it appears to me, right? And so without that external cooperation, regardless of who it's from, even if it's from the Vegas GCC, even if it's from the European Union, or even the Eagle State, right? Because I mentioned that earlier. Without that, he didn't say this directly linked, but he mentioned something called, I believe it's called a Black Winter, which he, proposes is going to be upcoming for West Africa, in which West Africa could potentially fall on even harder times than it is right now. So potentially, while he was mapping this out, and not just him making the decisions, I'm sure he has a whole, committee or whatever that helps him, because that's usually how these things go. Potentially, while making these decisions, he had to possibly weigh out whether or not he was going to be able to strengthen his country, the AES, and subsequently the West African region, hopefully, for potential uncertainty, or not do it, and then the region further descend into chaos, right? And this is not to say that the calculus that he did was accurate, nor is it to say that it was something moral. This is just something that I believe that leaders do sometimes. This is what countries do, for better or for worse, and there are consequences on both sides, because like you're saying now, meeting with representatives of the Vegas of the GCC could very much so alienate, the people of Sudan, the people of Yemen, even the people of Libya. Like, people could be, upset, and that's fine. No one can deny their right to be upset about meeting with someone who has caused them, hardship, right? However, when he, as a statesman, like we said earlier, when he's doing the calculus, maybe perhaps he considered that regardless of meeting with them, that certain things in East Africa would still continue and certain things in West Africa would get worse. So maybe potentially he tried to save more people by doing the things that he's doing. Maybe that's his mindset. This is not necessarily my mindset, but this is sometimes something that I've noticed from some people, because historically I've seen not just African leaders, but Latin American leaders and Asian leaders make deals, in the name of unalignment, because this is what this gets into. The idea that we're unaligned, that we work with both the East and the West. And in my opinion, as someone who, identifies as I'm just going to say a hammer and sickle carrier here, I prefer that we don't work with the West at all. But even my most favorite leaders have worked with the West. I mean, across the world for whatever reason. And it just, because of the way the system is structured, it's like, it's unavoidable unless we all unify in order to do so. And when you're in a region such as his, and in the case of certain East African countries who tried to go it along in the past, when you're surrounded by countries who are more than eager and willing, who are more than eager and willing to, sell out and work with the West, it makes your options much slimmer on what you're going to do. So that's just how I see it. This is, me hypothesizing about what they're thinking, how I feel about it. Like I said, optimally, we wouldn't do this. But when you look at the majority of the continent, when you look at the majority of the global South, when you look at even the so-called adversaries of the eagle, they all still maintain financial connections with them while they're trying to wean themselves off. And unfortunately, that seems like it's our reality. I hope that makes sense.
It does. And I understand that point of view. I think I've made mine clear. The whole reason why I came up was because you guys were talking about the whole path to Pan-Africanism. And I think I made it clear that if you would allow your countries, as an African who calls for Pan-Africanism, if you would allow your country to rise economically and all of that at the behest of unalived kids who are your fellow Africans as well, who you claim you want to unite with you, then I think it'll never work. This is my opinion. But thank you, host, for giving me the time.
Absolutely, you got it. You got it. Thank you, guys.
As a follow.
Appreciate you.
Yeah, thank you, Khalid. To any, I this is the issue that I have. I don't think certain African countries will then align with Pan-Africanism if it is willing to sacrifice them. I think that's the issue that you come to, right? If certain countries are willing to allow for your extermination to happen, you cannot expect the exterminated to then come out and say, well, yeah, I know, I want to unite with you guys. That was the same thing with like Eritrea as well. Like throughout the 30-year G-side, people knew Eritreans were being exterminated. They knew what was happening, but they still chose to align with Ethiopia. So now how do you expect Eritreans to align under this umbrella term of Pan-Africanism with the same countries that were willing, that basically said your life is expendable?
So the mistake he was making, and maybe you went and did your research when I asked him that question, I'm guessing. Have you looked up what Pan-Africanism means?
It's about working together towards the liberation of Black people on the African continent, also on not only Black people, but African people and descendants of African people in the diaspora. Okay.
So we know the world is messy, right? We understand that liberation, right? So why can't we so just so you know, a country has different sectors. That's why you have Department of Finance, Department of Health, Department of Defense, Department of this, and this. A country is not just a country just functioning as like human beings. Okay, so if you know that, Burkina Faso at the moment, because this whole conversation started with your claiming that not you. I'm not gonna put anything on you. On you, but Khalid came and said that Burkina Faso was working with UAE. That was his first submission. I dug deeper because I'm like, what is he talking about? Then I come to find out that this is a shell company registered in Burkina Faso, and he tried to dig in a little bit deeper, saying that Burkina Faso ought to know that every operational detail of that shell company. Like, what are you talking about? What's the benefit of registering a shell company if you're going to give up your deeds? That doesn't make any sense. And then I don't even know if he accepted that or not. Then we kept moving on. Then we came to the fact that that UAE as a country, that you added to this as well, that they have deep diplomatic ties. In the economic realm, do you need diplomatic ties? Every country needs diplomatic. I'm sure if I dig into your country that I'm going to find countries that shouldn't have diplomatic ties with your country, but they do have diplomatic ties because these countries need to have a communication channel, for one. In times of need, you need to have communication channels with countries to avoid kinetic battles or military operations. WARs. You need to have diplomatic channels to squash things as quickly as possible. That's what they're there for. Now, Burkina Faso in that current situation, I understand what's going on in your country and his country. I totally understand it. But this is a different realm. This is a different realm of things. His country is in desperate need of survival. The people that he's trying to refrain from are wishing for his downfall. They're trying to crush him, right? They're trying to, that in my opinion, it appears to me that they're the ones sending all these T groups to them and using covert means, funding them to weaken them. So that means that they're in desperate need, not only for development, but also for defense. They need to buy pew-pews and boom-booms. So when it comes to the realm of defense, relationship with countries, what country did he choose? Iran, right? Russia. When it comes to training and all that, he didn't go to the Las Vegas of the Middle East for that. He's doing economic business with them. That's
he has thought of
different.
military aid with them. He has thought about it. It was mentioned. You can look into that. He hasn't done it yet, but he has thought about military relations.
I'll look into that. Thank you. But at the moment, well, from what I've seen, is economic,
yes,
financial benefit. They need to survive. They need to eat. Countries need to bring their GDP up. I understand what you're saying, but not every. Some of the countries that are in line with the West, which was the ones that were exploiting them, they probably won't do business with Burkina Faso. They probably won't. China maybe not won't. I don't know what kind of deal they have going on with China. I don't know what kind of deal outside of military and security deals with Russia. I'm not sure if they have any economic investments with Russia right now. So these are the things I don't know. And with the way things are going on in the GCC area right now, I'm not even sure if this investment deal is gonna go through, because that Las Vegas of the Middle East right now it's a mess. So they're going to need all the money that they were planning to invest in the Eagle, all the money they probably were planning to invest in many other countries, all the money they were planning to use to supply the RSF. They're probably going to need all that money now to rebuild their own countries. They have to rethink twice now, because they're not in a peace era time right now for that country anymore. They're now in a war WAR era right now in that country. So things are going to change. So I'm not sure what this means for Burkina Faso in the deal that they were talking about. But that country, Burkina Faso, needs to, in the diplomatic realm, in the economic realm, of side of things, just like I don't agree with the deal they're trying to do with the Eagle. When it comes in the diplomatic realm for health, I don't agree with it. But I haven't read the full details. I haven't made any comment about it. They are trying to survive. They are currently isolated, and they're trying to do everything
we're trying to
possible for them.
survive too, though. Like, well, I'm not gonna lie. This conversation has been very depressing, because I've always been a prominent supporter of Pan-Africanism, always. But this conversation has just shown me that for the first time in my life, I don't even think Pan-Africanism is going to work, because 60,000 people were unalived in 3 weeks in one city in Sudan. That's the hardship that is being discussed here. 60,000 people in one city in 3 weeks. That's not, the hardship is not sanction or economic hardship. It's extermination. And if other African countries are saying, yeah, we're willing to basically deem those lives expendable and work with those, that if that's what Pan-Africanism is, then I don't want it. I'm not gonna lie. Like if that is coming from people who are saying, yeah, we are Pan-Africanists, we are for the liberation of Africans, but we're willing to deem the 60,000 lives who were snuffed in 3 weeks expendable to have good ties with this country that is doing that, then I don't know how we can liberate it. If we continue working with the people who are doing the G-siding, how can we continue to be okay? Like how, if we don't boycott them, this is one thing. This is why. But we're not, though. That's the thing. This is why I highly respect Thomas
Collectively,
Sankara.
we're not.
No, but I highly respect Thomas Sankara. I highly respect.
And they unalived
Sankara's
him.
No, but
How
they
do you respect
unalived him
him? His own people
because
killed him.
no, but they unalived him because they unalived him because he was on the right path. That's the thing. He was on the right path. That's why they unalived him.
And the rest of Africa descended into chaos subsequently. Like, I'm sorry. I like Thomas Sankara too. And I need to clarify something for someone in the comments and anyone else who thinks this way. Okay. I am also a descendant of people who are currently being G-sided. Okay. So I had to move as well. Not as a refugee, but I chose to move to try to make myself be in a better position. And after that, I moved to a place in which another African country was involved in a coup attempt to destabilize the country that I live in. And I'm still a Pan-Africanist, okay? Like, other African people were involved in the G-side of my people, and I'm still a Pan-Africanist. So while to you or whoever else is listening, it sounds like, oh, your people are expendable, what I'm hearing is that, oh, my G-side is a reason why we shouldn't unify. That's what I'm hearing. And what I'm saying is that we have no alternative. That's what I'm saying. So it's like, it's not like only certain groups of people have been through tremendous things or horrible things at the hands of African people. A lot of people have stories of how other African people have harmed them. What I'm saying is that strategically dividing and not working together ever in the future as some sort of solution to that is a continuation of the G side. It's just going to continue. There is no safety there. So I'm trying to do what makes people safe. I'm trying to make sure that we're all safe. No one said that people were expendable, okay? I'm not saying that he believes that. I'm saying that that's possible, that that's the calculus that he did. But even if that was possible, he's not the one who's doing the G side in Sudan. Yes, he made a deal with someone after it was already underway. And no, I don't think it's okay. But the way that people are trying to use this as an example as to why Pan-Africanism doesn't work, as if the alternatives that we've been living under are working, is crazy to me. It's absolutely crazy. Africa is not Pan-African right now. We don't live in Pan-Africanism. We live in a state of chaos and division and capitalism. My definition of Pan-Africanism from Kwame Nkrumah is the total unification and liberation of African people on the African continent under scientific socialism. That's what I believe in. That's the future that I'm aiming at. But people saying stuff about how Traore isn't that, which I don't know what he is, because I don't idealize one individual figure. But the way that the conversation is shifting into, oh, Pan-Africanism will never work. No, it won't. It won't work if every time someone does something that you don't like, you give up on the idea of unification altogether. There's other people to unify with beyond Traore and Burkina Faso. People can't even unify with people on their side of Africa. Like, we spent hours talking about the Horn, and someone came up, they interrupted and asked which countries were in the EAC. Only like one or two, no, one of them is in the Horn, the other one isn't. It's like, we're not even unifying with the people that haven't hurt us the most. We're just looking for reasons to justify why we feel that Pan-Africanism won't work. And we're putting ourselves at risk. Like, it feels very unserious. People are being G-sided right now and have been G-sided for over 300 years or so, on and off, depending on which group. And it's just like, do we want to end it or not? Do we think that we're going to put it into it by being divided? Or do we think we're going to put it into it by figuring out, okay, this person did this thing wrong. How can we improve upon it?
But it's not wrong, though. How are you going to end G-side by cozying up with a country that is currently doing the number one largest humanitarian crisis in the world? That's what I'm trying to tell you. The UAE is currently doing the largest humanitarian crisis in the world. How are we going to say that we are going to stop the G-side by cozying up with the G-siders? That's the only thing that I'm saying.
I didn't say he should cozy up with them. What alternative are other African countries providing them with? Should they cozy up with the primary G-siders, the primary beneficiaries? Should he cozy up more with Europe or the Eagle? Which alternative? They're landlocked in a desert. Like, what's going to happen? I'm not saying that they should cozy up, but let's just follow it to the logical conclusion. Nothing. If they don't find any wait a minute. They don't find any external sources or resources. They're already closing up with the dragon and the bear, which I prefer, right? So let's say they try to be like Eritrea, right? With no water access. What's going to happen is this, in my opinion. Lots of people in that region are going to unalive, and then certain Europeans or even people from the GCC, if they want to, or even certain North Africans, can come in and use that state as a proxy. That's what I'm saying. Like, it's either worse or worser. Worse or worser. Like, what alternative are we going to provide them with? It's not okay, but let's provide an alternative. Okay, Remy, do you have an alternative?
No, I was gonna say maybe they should starve to unalivement to prove that they're Pan-African. That's what they should do. Maybe
they
what
won't
Ibrahim
starve to unalivement. They will starve, and their country will be taken back into the hands of the French and the old colonial. Hold on. It will go back to the hands of the people that they took it away from, and then we're back to square zero. All in the quest of trying to be true, pure Pan-Africanists in the light of people are describing it. Don't you think that's what will happen, Remy?
So that's what I'm saying. Maybe they should cut off their free education, that program they got going on. Maybe they should just defund their military and just show that they're willing to suffer, even though it wouldn't make anything better for the other countries, but show us that they're willing to suffer so we can say that they're truly Pan-African. Look, I think other people have made this a point, but when you look at geopolitics, right, you have the dragon country, right? They buy land in the eagle country. They buy their debt. They have trade deals, and these people are supposed to be adversaries. These people are doing heinous things to each other behind the scenes. Recently, they just removed sanctions on the bear country. Right now, the bear country is making billions in oil. right? Why would they do that? Those things are done because in this world that we live in today, even the most powerful country do not have enough self-sustenance to avoid dealing with people they don't want to deal with. That's the reality of things. So that's why I start by saying, literally, like, what are you asking of this man in order to prove he's Pan-African? Because even when it comes to the deal he did with the healthcare, we were here questioning it, right? Even Pan was questioning
They
it.
all question it till today.
Yes, yeah, we were like, hey, I mean, what's going on here, you know? But again, me personally, in my life, what I've experienced is this, right? And this is something that I think a lot of liberalism ignores. When you have a business plan, when you have an ideal in real life, it gets really messy. It gets really messy. You might get to the goal, but it gets messy, right? So there's only so much you can do perfectly. You know, I don't know what's gonna happen. One day we might sit here and say he did everything wrong, right? Or one day we might sit here and say, okay, we didn't see what he was trying to do. But one thing I've experienced in my own country that I've seen is that someone can come in as a hero, someone can come in as somebody who wants the best for everybody. And then when they get in that position, the things they have to deal with, they completely change. Like a good example as well is Gaddafi, right? And I'll finish with this. There's a lot of things he did that are despicable. You know, everybody can do their own independent research into that. I don't have to do the details. But is Africa stronger now without Gaddafi? Is Libya better without Gaddafi? So it's like you have to understand that in life, the whole thing about expecting people to like be as perfect as possible, I don't know if it's realistic. That's all I'm gonna say. I think it's idealistic, and I want things to be that way. Yeah, I want African leaders, as a matter of fact, to refuse any money from all these places because they control us through money.
And
Right.
then let me add on this, Bremy. Are we not aware that we have Burkina Faso surrounded by puppets that are serving the interests of the West? So if he's on neighbors, what I'm trying to explain to you, sister, Kofi, is that they are fighting for survival. They are currently surrounded by the enemy, in my opinion. The enemy's military bases. In Nigeria, there's an installment from the Eagle Nation. In Ivory Coast, there's an installment from the Bonjour people. In Ghana, they just signed an EU deal. In Algeria, they just signed a deal with, I believe, EU, if I'm not mistaken, or French. They've been surrounded by these countries. These people are fighting for survival. I hear what you're saying. I understand where you're coming from. But they also need money, and they're not doing. If they don't do this deal, it won't starve. And I hear you. Just don't think I'm just trying for us to understand geopolitics. I'm trying to be logical and not emotional in this discussion. I'm trying to use logics. I'm trying to think as a leader, a head of states will think in it, and then the ministers of a country will think. Is what I'm trying to put myself in position of. It's not a linear line of trajectory. This is the geopolitics is squirrely lines. It's messy. It goes in multiple directions, and then it's messy. When you're done with those lines, it's going to be a messy graph because it's going to be in all directions, overlapping each other, going back and forth. It's not going to be a clean, straight line. So at this point in that junction, in what they're trying to do in Burkina Faso, they're trying to get away from the ego and the French. They're trying to get away from that in terms of them being controlled and exploited by them. They have achieved that goal, but then they created another problem. They got sanctioned. They got sanctioned not only by the West, but by their neighbors, Nigeria, ECOWAS, and then they're having issues with the northern country, Algeria. And that isolated them. They found partnership with the bear and the dragon. They found partnership with them, but that's not enough. So they need to keep finding means of making deals to survive. And I hear what you're saying. I understand it. I get it. If there was if they weren't in a dire situation, I think they would think differently. But we have to understand where they lie at the moment, and they're doing an economic deal, and not one that is leading them to accept them to do a military base or supply them with pew-pews and arms and all of that. I'm going to look into what you suggested, Kofi. I'm going to look into the security thing that you spoke of. But at this particular moment, they are trying to find means of having money for survival for their people. Because at the same time they were talking about this, the people that they got away from are putting out disinformation about him. I don't know if you're keeping up with the media. They're saying that he's unaliving his own citizens, that he's doing X, Y, Z, and then they're trying to find ways to get the country back because they're saying they don't know what they're doing, and situations are getting worse in the country, that he doesn't control up that the T groups are controlling about 60% of Burkina Faso. They're putting all kinds of misinformation out there about him. And all the man is trying to do is seek self-determination. Just like in your country, you're also wanting to seek self-determination away from your neighbors. Like you've been talking about all the live session, about what they did, history, what's been happening in history, and up to current events. That's what they are trying to do. Doing this business deal with these people, they're the ones that came to the table. I understand what you're saying. But they need to survive. I don't know how else to put it to you.
I understand what you're talking about. First of all, JNIM, the organization he's fighting, the head of that organization, he was literally one of the groups that were funded and trained by Gaddafi in the 1980s during the Tuareg rebellion, and the precursor of the RSF, Arab Gathering, was also created by Gaddafi. So a lot of the things that were done in the 70s and 80s are coming home to roost now. I think I'm not doing this to demonize Burkinabe people, by the way. So I understand the need for survival. It was more me worried that we're making all the same mistakes again, because we are on the brink of a new scramble for Africa. And I feel like, unfortunately, a lot of the same mistakes that were done in the 1700s and the 1800s are being made again. And the problem is, though, the colonial entities back then made some mistakes themselves, whereas now they're going to be more prepared. They're not going to make the same mistakes as they did back then. They have more hands to help them. They're not on their own anymore. They have the blue and white state. They have the GCC countries. They have different countries now that are also aiding and abetting them. So they're more prepared. They're coming back with more hands. And I feel like some African countries are making the same mistakes that were done in the 1800s. That's the only issue that I have. I'm not sitting here to demonize
I agree with you on that. A lot of them far worse than others, like Nigeria.
Exactly.
Some
Nigeria
other countries
invited America in. I mean,
right. Well, they got coerced. We can talk about that. They got coerced,
but they kind of low key.
They finally gave in. They gave in.
Yeah.
I can agree. I'm in agreement with you on that. Like the Eagle is giving countries only two options. Like your country, I'll say your country, Zimbabwe, Burkina Faso, Niger, and Mali, have chosen the option that they refuse to bow down to the Eagle, and they've become the enemy of the Eagle. Whereas countries like Nigeria, Ivory Coast, Benin, Where else? Ghana, Kenya, right? Maybe Ethiopia. I have to look into that because everything you've been saying have led me to believe that Ethiopia is on that list as well. They've chosen option number one, which is just comply and become a puppet. And then, but it comes with coercion and everything else you're going to get from them, exploitation, and then you don't have self-determination, right? But if you choose option number two, yes, you have self-determination, but then you have to fight against sanctions, embargoes, withholding of loans, withholding of aid, being isolated with the media, and everything else that they're going to throw at you, and regime change, attempts of regime change also, and everything else they're going to throw at you. Right now, your country is fighting it in its own unique way, doing the things it has to do to survive. And Burkina Faso is doing the same thing. I hear what you're saying, and maybe that should be something that we should discuss on the table. I don't have any communications with Burkina Faso, nor do I know any Pan-Africans. Actually, I know some Pan-Africans that have communications with Burkina Faso. And that's maybe something we need to discuss. But right now, they need to survive. We have to understand that they need to survive. I don't know how else I'm going to word it. If they don't survive this whole dream that we have for them to be the blueprint of what Africa should look like, African countries should look like, it's just going to fade away, and it's just going to be a pipe dream that we had for 2-3 years, and it died away. We want him to succeed, because then other countries, other African people, not even countries, other people in Africa will now start looking at their leaders sideways, like, what are y'all doing? Look, so we need them to survive. So if it takes maybe do some pragmatic things that they shouldn't do on normal circumstances, then maybe I'm not sure, but they're in a dire situation. That's all I know. That's a fact. They're in a dire situation. Once the West, you should know this. I'm hinting that you're not in Eritrea, but you should know what they've done to your country for the past few decades, and what it's done to your country economically, with the other things that slapped on the country. You should know what I mean by that. And your president is still standing 10 toes down. He's not bowing down. He's not cowering down. Burkina Faso is only 2, 3, 4 years in, 2022, 2023 to 2026. And he's still fighting for survival. He needs to move in order to survive. We have to understand this. He needs to survive. His neighbors are not helping. Your neighbors are not helping for the most part. And how are you surviving in your country? What's investment deals that you're making? How are things working? I know you're not landlocked, so it's a little bit better for you guys. But what countries are helping you stay afloat, if you don't mind me asking?
For me personally, I think it's the diaspora that's helping us afloat. And then
like the remittent, what do you say? I'm just, my tongue is twisted. Remittent, how do you say it? What am I trying to say? Remittance. Sorry about that. Remittance. Okay.
And then also we have some ties with, recent ties with, like we have ties with Iran. We have ties with Turkey, Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia, especially recently, has amped up its ties with regard to the port. So,
do you support the ties with Saudi?
I don't trust Saudi Arabia. I think for now, though, they're a better ally than the UAE. But I don't really trust them. No, I don't think anybody in Africa is good for Africans. Any outsider, especially. For now, though, I think looking into them. No, but I'm saying looking into them, they're less aggressive. Like Saudi Arabia are much less aggressive than what the UAE is doing. Like the UAE is causing havoc, like absolute havoc. Like if you look into the stuff that the UAE is doing, it's a complete disaster. It's actually fundamentally disgusting. I remember I did a deep dive into it, and I felt ill for 2 or 3 days because of the stuff that they're doing. So I personally don't think, like, it's the number one investor, if I'm not mistaken, has come out as the number one investor into Africa currently. And And it's just, I don't know, it's kind of terrifying. Why, I don't know.
I think
Mind you,
Okay,
the
so
UAE was kicked out of Eritrea in 2021 because the Eritrean government realized also what type of timing they were on. So they got kicked out in 2021.
right, but okay, so here's the thing. So I think we're at a good spot, right? You said that you think UAE. I'm sorry, shit. I can't even shit. What are they called? The Vegas of
Las Vegas of the Middle East.
Thank you. I don't like to say Middle East though because that's a colonial
Okay, Las
phrase,
Vegas of
personally.
GCC.
Yeah. Okay. So the Vegas of GCC. You said that they're worse than KSA. It's possible today, right? It's possible that they are today. Like I can give them that. They're involved in a lot of terrible things. But the KSA is, in my opinion, that place is very evil. Okay, they are very evil. They are responsible. I'm pretty sure you know for Salafist fucking T groups, that whole thing about Wahhabism. A lot of that comes from them. And they are a fucking proxy of the blue and white and the eagle. In fact, I don't even think that what's the name of them? The Vegas of the GCC. I don't even think that they would be as powerful as they are today without KSA. So you see how these things are like so intertwined that it's just very hard to undo them, right? It's very my biggest gripe was just that I don't like when people use personally, and people can do what they want, but I'm saying this is how I feel. I personally am not fond of when people, this was in the comments, talk down on Pan-Africanism as an ideology. Like, how do you talk down on unity? To me, that sounds weird. Like, it's like borderline demonic, because what's wrong with unity, right? It's not saying that you should unify at the expense of other people, but if you see human actors do things that you don't like, and if you see someone that you think is like supporting that, don't use that as an excuse to talk down on an ideology that helped so many of our ancestors, lost their lives over, and they did so much work for us today. And some of us were living in the aftermath of, and we get to benefit from certain things that came from that. I don't think there's a country on the continent that is not involved with some external entity that isn't harming someone somewhere, even on the continent. I don't think that exists. Jesus. So yeah. I don't think that country exists on the continent. If they do, they are even more isolated than what we thought was possible. But it seems to me that every single African country, unfortunately, has they have deals with entities that I feel wish us harm. And yes, we should work on ways to get out of that. But because some of them are in those deals, please don't use that as a means to try to demonize Pan-Africanism, because making business deals or whatever type of deals with colonizers and their junior partners, it doesn't mean that that's reflective of Pan-Africanism. That's all I have to say about that.
And also, Kofi, can you tell me, because I'm doing research here as we speak, the capacity your country have diplomatic ties with the blue and white and UAE? Because from my quick research, it says that they do have diplomatic ties.
No, so with the UAE, they were kicked out. They used to have a base in which they built after, I think in 2020 they built the base, if I'm not mistaken, or 2019, and then they were kicked out in 2021. And then since then, no diplomatic ties. And with the blue and white state, there was, especially under Ethiopian occupation, they even had like a front company in Asmara and Massawa. And then they even had a military base, but now there is no embassy. There are no diplomats. There is no base. The relationship is very cold.
With the blue and white?
Yes, with the blue and white state. There's misinformation about like a base existing on the Dahlak right currently, but it's not currently. It's an old base that existed in the past. There is no military base.
Right, but diplomatic ties doesn't necessarily mean military, because remember I had separated everything: defense, military, economic.
The ties are very cold now. Currently, they're very cold.
But they still maintain an embassy in.
No. There is no embassy. No. There is. No. The embassy was also shut down. Like the ambassador left, the embassy was shut down. There is no, again, as I told you, the I-State and the Vegas of the GCC is actively trying to infiltrate again because they've been completely kicked out. Especially after 2019, 2021, there are no ties, no. You can look into that. There is no embassy anymore in Asmara. It's all old.
Gotcha.
Mm-hmm. There was this misinformation about an embassy on the Dahlak Islands that was released by this American organization in 2012, I think. But then there were other organizations that did a deeper dive into that and found out that there was no actual primary source. It was misinformation into that. It was an older military base that was actually used to G-side us. So, yeah, there is no base, no foreign bases.
I think the entire GCC, you know how they make their money. So their relationship with the Eagle country, which comes with ties to the blue and white country. So a lot of these people that are dealing in African economics in general, obviously, do not benefit from us doing well. Even when you look at countries like the bear and dragon country, which haven't been necessarily hostile, but they're not necessarily giving out the best deals. And it's ultimately about leverage. It's about what you have to offer that gives you a good deal. And this conversation really just leads to sustenance. In order for this to happen, countries in Africa have to be self-sustainable. That may not be a possibility for one country, but it would be a possibility for the continent. We have enough to do that. But again, when you have, we can count on one hand or maybe two the leaders that we can say are trying to do their best for Africa. But even so, it's not enough, and that's why I feel like even when we talk about Thomas Sankara, he if I look at his real impact, I would say he's an inspiration, right? But outside of that, his life was cut short and all of that work regressed. All of that work led nowhere. And sometimes I think that a lot of the times we look at things and we don't realize that it's really hard for one man to come along and change all of this. If other African leaders are not gonna stand up and work together to be self-sustainable, so nobody has to make a deal with anyone they don't like, countries are going to be kept in a position where eventually they will take a deal with somebody that they don't like or that you don't like. Take DRC. The biggest actors and problem in the DRC are the very people financing their government. And they've been there since, noticeably, at least 96. Since 96, the DRC hasn't seen peace. 6 million people displaced, 2 million people unalive. It still goes on. And the people responsible for it are literally giving that country money, and controlling it through that money. While they actively unalive their people, use their kids for labor, in my opinion, and basically watch their infrastructure crumble. And it's like, what do you do for the DRC? Who can be the source of money for the DRC so they don't have to do that? That's where the question leads.
And then, Kofi, you know, you're still having an embassy in Tel Aviv.
An embassy?
Mm-hmm.
Let
Check
me
it
check
out.
if the ambassador is still there. I don't think so.
Let me know if it's still up to date or not.
I'm coming in late, but for me, as I said before on this live, it's the African countries who got the embassies inside their nations, for me personally. Like, what's going on with that? Like, those scare me for my own potential, my own personal reasons. But like, having imagine living in a part, imagine living on the continent. Just imagine, hypothetically, and you look around and all your neighbors have blue and white embassies. You're just like, whoa, how did I get here? How did we get here? You know? Damn, everybody went to go look.
It doesn't have a permanent ambassador. It seems like, I don't know, why would they say permanent? What would a permanent be?
Yeah, that's a good question. Like, is it like a
Temporary,
temporary one?
as needed.
Easily
Gaza
noticed.
Mikael, can we get Gaza Mikael up? Maybe she knows more about that part, because I'm not aware of an ambassador being there.
But is the embassy still there?
Yeah, but I'm not
I don't
aware
know
of
if they
it.
have an embassy.
Yeah, maybe Gaza Mikael might know much more about that, if that's okay. She's in the requests.
Who?
It's Gal. It's Gal. She's saying her name the correct way. Yeah.
I
We
don't.
don't ever be saying it right.
I'll bring her
It's
up. But
Gal.
I'm not sure if she knows about it. But let's see.
I've been asking you for long to come up. Oh my God. No, they don't have. Okay. I just, I don't know how.
They don't have what?
We don't have an embassy of the small hat.
How are you sure?
I'm very sure.
I just found it.
The last time I went is 2020.
No, not in your country. In the small hat country.
Oh, our? I don't know. They had, I think, 2 years or 5 years ago. Something happened. A lot of people remember the Rev Shamanam, what they call it. A lot of people who went through situation. They don't have embassy, even in the small hat. Okay, but do you understand? We have a president in Washington D.C. while we have a president in ours. So what I'm trying to say is the sometime that against the president, the people in Washington, they are getting ready to have replace. So there is a person, they call him Eritrean president. So it could be a fake. That's what I'm trying to say.
Having diplomatic ties open, like I was trying to tell the other brother Khalid, it's not a bad thing. It just helps get things done faster, get things done without having a lot of tension, and also done behind the scenes in a quiet way. So I can understand your being in the Red Sea, having diplomatic ties with them, just to have open communications. It's important for both countries. I can see that. The reason that should exist. I can see also when they acknowledged that Somaliland, your country had summoned them to come and respond to you guys about why they issued that. So I can see that too. So that I don't know if you're aware your country did that, but they had forcefully requested them to come and explain themselves to y'all. So things like that do exist. But instead of using pew pews and boom booms like the Eagle Nation is winning in Iran right now, where they should be doing diplomatic negotiations, is the difference. So like I said, countries shouldn't be just working
What was
in one
Somaliland
dimension only.
for the Somaliland thing?
They did. Let me see. Give me a second.
Because I know that was publicly
Eritrea
condemned.
issued a forceful diplomatic response
Exactly.
to Israel's recognition of Somaliland. It's they did a good thing, nothing bad. But it was they did it in a diplomatic manner, not in any other manner.
Okay. Because I thought you said that they called in like the Israeli diplomat or something. I was confused because we don't have an Israeli diplomat. But yeah.
Do you see what the guy Temolezi? Can you see? He said, "Rani is good, but they don't trust you. Then they are hoping for Ethiopia to invade Eritrea."
Yes, I see. They do have one, but he said it's empty. Or she said it's empty.
I was looking into it as well. You said it's operational, it's active, but they have limited staff and they mostly focus on things like processing visas, passports, and so on. And it made sense because they have
Counselor,
one there.
I think it's counselor. It's not embassy. Counselor.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it's not surprising that it's there, but not in Eritrea, because I looked at the population and they have about 18,000 people from Eritrea out there. So I think that's more geared towards that, like being able to process them fast, all that kind of stuff. But it seems like they don't want them in their country though, as far as the blue and whites.
Yeah, we don't want them in our country
because they're a spy.
Yeah.
They put a spy on you. That's our issue.
I'm so sorry, host, but this person called Power of God has been asking to come up. I think they've been wanting to say something for the past hour. They're on the requests as well. Thank you very much.
Hi. Thank you for allowing me to come up.
How are you, Power?
Hi. Hi, Kobe.
Power, where are you from?
I'm Eritrean, just like Kobe.
Okay, welcome.
And
Go ahead.
Kobe, I love you so much, Ambassa. Just to clarify a bit, a small thing. We don't have embassy in Eritrea. There's a building. You have to have a piece of like an office, which you can have the visa and all of that. There's no embassy in Eritrea either. Let's put that aside. But coming back to the Pan of Africa, I don't understand how you guys can see somebody have to pay a price in order the Pan Africa to work. At what cost? I just don't. It's like what Hitler used to say: "My nation was dying; they were hungry. Therefore, I need to remove certain people from this place in order my people to success." And the price that I paid was 6 million. So I want you guys to believe that the Pan Africa have to work in order to work for that. My sister African, she keeps saying, I understand this, but in order to work for the Pan of Africa, somehow we need to allow something to happen. Who's going to pay the price? Let's see in a way of like, can your family pay the price? Can your people who you grow up with, your neighbors, your area, have to pay the price in order for the Pan-Africa to work? That when you guys were talking about that, it did affect me because I'm not Sudanese. But why does somebody in Sudan have to pay for the price for the Pan-Africa to work? And like I think we East African, we don't doesn't make sense in our head. We don't accept that. It doesn't, it doesn't click with our brain. Maybe this Pan Africa should be Pan of West Africa, because I have this feeling that for you guys it makes sense. It makes sense to some degree in your head, but for us it's a big no. In order for the Pan Africa for us to work, we Africa have to work with between each other. Why do we need to get salvation from outside of Africa? Why does it have to be the white man to come to help us, or the Arabs, or whatever other nation? Our continent is full of good. If we look within ourselves, I think we can find a solution. But I found it that's a bit for me harsh. Like I couldn't understand how my sister, you're so sweet, and the same time, in order for you to work the Pan of Africa, you justify by saying, "I understand this, I understand that," but then you use the word and again, but because of we need to get less a bit allow the suffering of somebody. No, I'm sorry, guys, but that doesn't work for the East Africans. I mean, for the Somalian and Sudan and Eritreans. And anyway, you spoke
Can
a
I
lot
ask
about.
you a quick question?
Yeah, go ahead.
If he stopped dealing with them, or stop taking their money, whatever it is,
Hmm.
would it stop what's going on?
It would help, even if it doesn't stop. Even if it doesn't stop, my brother. Even if it doesn't stop, I wouldn't allow you to. It's like the way I see it. Yeah, and anybody to come to harm you. Let's say me and you, we are neighbors. Yeah, in order for me to get a job, if anybody say you, oh, allowed me to have access to your house, and I give you a job, and to harm you, to hurt, like to destroy you and your family, in any shape, wherever, if I allowed him, I'm your enemy. Even though if he's going to give me a job to feed my kids, I am your enemy. Tomorrow you're going to become somebody as well. And you're going to come back, you're going to bring that knife back at me. And what kind of neighbor am I? What kind of African am I? And again, why can't we find what West Africa need, or we whole African we need from our own continent? Why
What
can't we trade
country?
between each other? No, why can't we trade between ourselves? Why can't
Yeah,
we?
what country would
It's
be able to help him?
us. If you listen, our continent is the richest continent in the world. If we stop thinking that the salvation is again in the white man land, we can never. We're gonna go back and again. We're gonna be slave to the Arabs, to the West, as we were in the past, as we are to a degree, and then maybe to the Chinese, to the Russians. When does the Africans gonna start thinking salvation comes within us?
Power.
Yes.
Can you tell me the situation Burkina Faso finds itself in?
I understand, my brother. I understand that.
No.
I've heard
Please,
you.
hold on. You came in here criticizing. So I just want to know your level of knowledge. Is that okay?
No, I'm okay.
Is that okay?
Okay, I hear you.
Okay, so the question is, and I need please provide an answer. Can you tell me the situation Burkina Faso finds itself in? Please.
Okay, listen. Okay, can I explain? You might have more knowledge. You and Kobe have more knowledge than I do. And my sister, my auntie sister, I think she have read a lot, and my Kobe as well. So you might have more knowledge of me, what the especially Kobe and my sisters, what he's trying to do. But at the same time, I might not have read a lot like you, but I understand the situation as well. But
Okay,
what my point is,
tell us what you
I'm
understand.
explaining
Can you
people.
tell us what
Can
you
I finish?
understand?
Can I finish? Allow me to finish, please. Thank you. What you are saying that in order, but I'm coming from what you
No,
say.
ma'am. I
I'm
don't like the
coming
way
from
you
the
ask
word
your
you guys
questions.
been.
I do not like the way
Hello,
you'll
my
answer.
brother.
Okay,
I'm not talking. All right.
I'm asking you a direct question. Please give me a direct answer, please.
Okay. Hello.
Can you
Okay.
tell me the situation Burkina Faso is facing
I
right now?
heard you because the people are suffering. So in order for him to feed his children and to build a hospital,
Ma'am, that's not the answer to the question, ma'am.
What kind of situation you talking? I know that what he started doing. I know from his beginning what his ambition was. I know that.
No, that's still not answering
I
the
know that as well.
question.
They're trying to kill him. A lot of people are trying to kill him. He's been
Okay, tell
there
us
was
more.
an
Now
attempted
you're getting closer now. Tell us more,
I
please.
understand they were attempted. Listen, the attempted it happened to him a few times. I think it happens quite a lot of time, and it might be from the outside, but the person that who was willing to take his life was from his own background,
Oh,
like from
that
his
was one
own.
time. That was one time. There's been
Yeah,
many attempts. Okay, just tell us
even
some
though
more. Outside of the uh,
he is in his land. He is, again, we're coming back. We
outside
Africa.
of the unaliving,
Yeah,
Daku, your connection was poor. It disconnected you. Just
sorry.
tell us more. Now he's been the attempted unalivings. You've talked about that. Tell us some more.
Yeah.
What else is going on in Burkina Faso?
Well, I know that they're trying to destroy the country. I know that they, like the French, in a way to find a way to come back the way they used to be under the French in the European Union. They're trying to find a way in order for him to shut down. I mean, to bring him down. I understand that. What more do you want me to say? This is not the biggest thing. There's no bigger than trying to remove him, like to shut him down, to kill him. So isn't that the worst thing that is happening to the country and to him? Because he started saying that I'm going to give you what is better for my country and for my people. He started with a good idea. And I am not saying that he's going in the wrong side. I am not. I'm not criticizing him that he's going in the wrong side. I'm just saying that I don't think so. People should encourage a voice
Okay.
that say that.
Is that all that is happening in Burkina Faso? 'Cause before we go back into criticism.
I'm not criticizing him. I'm just giving my point of view. There's two kind of point of view. It doesn't mean that we don't agree. It's a criticism, or I'm against the country or him. I'm just saying that why can't we see it in the other round way rather than we see always from the help or whatever the other side, or why can't we see the pain of? I mean, you don't understand my point. You think it's criticism of the country or
Okay.
the government?
Based on what you had said earlier, you had said
Yeah,
Africa has all the resources, right?
yeah. His uncle is
Okay, so let me
on
ask
our
you,
continent.
knowing your country, knowing
Yeah.
how your neighbors are
Mm-hmm.
acting in your country, right?
Mm-hmm.
The
Mm-hmm.
countries. Do you know how the neighbors of Burkina Faso are acting towards Burkina Faso?
It started very good. They were at the beginning. They all had like they were gathering to become like I think military wise, if I'm not mistaken, they were supporting each other. Am I right
No,
or wrong?
I'm not talking about those ones. I'm not talking about the AES countries. I'm talking about the countries outside of AES.
Like what? Like Nigeria and
Like Nigeria and the rest of
yeah,
them.
Nigeria.
Ivory
He's thinking
Coast,
for his interest and
Benin.
for him is his country because Nigeria he's it's a big country and I think he's thinking. I think he was even trying to sell his oil from Nigeria to the European Union and cut Africa completely. No, I mean, just doing his business in Nigeria with European
So
Union. I know.
okay, so but you haven't still answered. Tell me, what's the relationship between the AES countries and the ECOWAS countries?
Say it again. Sorry, I
The
didn't hear.
AES countries, which is the ones that are in good terms with Burkina Faso, and the rest of them, like Nigeria and the rest of them.
And
What's that relationship like?
I don't know. I can't. I'm not going
Okay.
to invent a
Okay,
story that I don't
that's
know.
so. If you don't know, I recommend you do some more research versus talking about him the way you're doing. Because I agree with you. Well, hold on. I agree with you that Africa should has all the resources and they should be using it for themselves. But when you're in a situation just like in your country, that your neighbors, I'm not sure. I'm just going by what you have been saying tonight. Your
I
neighbors
think
are hostile to you
you
guys.
you become a bit sensitive when we're talking about him. It's not personal and attacking
No,
about
I'm
him.
not getting sensitive. I'm being logical. I'm being logical.
No,
I'm not
if I
sensitive.
was talking good
Because
things,
I'm trying to gauge your level of knowledge. I'm not being sensitive. I'm trying to gain your level of knowledge. And I'm giving you suggestions. I'm not host. I'm not sensitive. I'm the host. I'm calm. You see me, hear me. I'm not shouting. I'm calm.
No, I know you're not shouting, but like, listen, I am not expert in the situation
Okay,
about him.
so
But you're not expert either.
I'm
With
trying to get
respect,
you. I'm trying to give you suggestions. All I'm
okay,
trying to do
but
is give.
my brother, and I'm giving you a suggestion too as well. From what I heard you saying, you are not an expert either, my brother. I think your knowledge is quite limited, with respect. So do not. I don't think so. You are better than me. I think my two sisters are much better knowledge than you and I.
Are we competing in who knows
Well,
more?
no, you're trying to criticize me by saying that
No,
you
you're the one
you
that
think
was
your knowledge is
criticizing us
limited.
earlier. I'm not even
No, the way
criticizing
you
you.
were,
I'm giving you
I'm
suggestions.
criticizing. Hang
I'm
on.
not even criticizing you. You came up here criticizing
Okay.
us.
I am criticizing the way that you guys see that
Okay, but I'm
in
not even
order
doing
for
that
the
to you.
country
I'm
to
here giving you
survive,
suggestions.
Sudan
Can
has
I
to
get
pay for
in
the
the middle
price.
of you?
Hold on, ma'am. Hold on, ma'am.
Okay.
I'm here giving you suggestions. I'm not even
No,
criticizing you. I'm giving you
no.
suggestions.
Oh my God! But the thing is that, listen, in order that, though I was not criticizing what you might think what is criticizing, but for you, for you three of you, you couldn't see and understand that what Kovi and the Sudanese guy was saying, and we in the panel,
I
like we
understood
were
perfectly
writing the
what he was
comments, we were
saying, but
writing is that
he
you
came
couldn't
up here with a
understand the
false
pain of the
pretense.
Sudanese and
He
the.
came up here with a false pretense that Burkina
No, I
Faso was
am not.
operating. Hold on, that Burkina Faso was operating
I,
a cargo
any
plane.
country, any government
Oh my
allowed
goodness!
his land or his place to
Somebody
just
requested that
access
you
that.
come up the panel, and you're
Sorry.
being very hostile right now.
I'm sorry if you feel that way.
I'm the host.
Why are you so quiet? Is my phone messed up?
No.
Oh, sorry.
I have to
I'm
open
sorry.
myself too. Yeah, anyway, we should let it go. It's good to know, you know. Everybody have their own of idea or
Hold on, ma'am.
plan.
I'm not done.
You be quiet, that's why we start.
I know. I didn't want to go into rage. So, ma'am, respectfully, if you don't know much about what you came up to criticize us about, I recommend you go do your due diligence and homework. Come back with your criticism when you get your knowledge up. I didn't criticize what you were talking about, Eritrea and Ethiopia and everything happening in the Horn. I didn't criticize none of it. I didn't even interject. I was just listening. But when they brought up several countries on the list, the Sudanese brought it up, and I knew knowledge of it. That's when I said, let me hear some more. I asked questions, and me and him got into a discussion. You came up here to criticize. You've been asking in the comments to come up the panel. You came up here to criticize, having limited knowledge about what you came up here to criticize about, thinking you know it all. So with all due respect, go and do your due diligence, learn more about the geopolitics of what's happening in that region of the world. And I'm talking about location, land, and resources. And then you can come back to tell us if you still want to criticize us in our way of thinking, or if you have a different mindset when you come back. But please hold your opinions and your criticisms. We don't need it if you don't have the knowledge of what you're discussing. Respectfully. Thank you. Go ahead, Aliyah.
Uh, I don't
Go ahead.
say I don't necessarily think she's like attacking the leader or whatever it is. I think she's just offering up a worry. I think it was the same worry that I brought up before that as well. I think if we're unfortunately making, like, I personally think a lot of African countries are making the same mistakes that were done in the 1800s. And I think that power isn't necessarily demonizing Burkina Faso or Burkinabe people, but it was more about this worry that we're doing the same mistakes again. I think that's where she was coming from. I don't think she came up saying that she was an expert in the case. been more of a worry seeing the current predicament a lot of African countries find themselves in. And to Aliyah, I just wanted to say, Eritrea, I saw your comment, I know you corrected it, but I just want to say Eritrea didn't recognize Somaliland. Eritrean government believes in a one Somalia policy. And Eritrea has been a very strong ally of Somalia, to the point where we even got wrongfully sanctioned. We took an L for Somalia. We did not support Al-Kabab, but we supported Somalia during the Ethiopian invasion of Somalia. And we ended up getting punished for it. And we got sanctioned heavily, and it destroyed our economy from 2009 up until 2018. So just want to say that.
No, I do know that it was just a mistake that I made when I was typing. I forgot not instead. So I went on and said recognized, but I did correct myself at the end. Yes, like Eritrea and Somalia, the relationship goes like really very deep. And we do have like a great relationship between the two countries because like we, in a way, we do have like not a common enemy, but we do have like, we face a lot of the same issues with our neighboring countries who are like always like involving themselves in our politics and in our countries and always trying to do some corruption stuff just so that they can have like, so they can create issues within our countries. But the reason why I came up Pan is like this whole like Pan-African movement. I am not for Pan-African movements because, for instance, Pan-African is not for all Pan-African because like the word may sound like it is for all of us, but I came across a lot of people who did say that, oh, Pan-African is not for you. Specifically, they had said it to me, like 2 hosts have said it to me. And with the whole Pan-African movement, I think it's more so for like the Bantus and the Sub-Saharan Africans. That is who the movement is for. And I mean, I do support it in a way that if it is benefiting you guys, it is a great deal. But Pan-African is not for all Pan-African because like, especially like if I'm speaking about the Horn, we have a lot of issues that our neighbors are causing for us, especially one neighbors that we have that is causing so much issue within the Horn. And a lot of the people who are standing by are the same people who are supporting the whole Pan-African movement. So Pan-African movement is more so, as long as it benefits you, it don't matter what happens to the rest of the other people who are not benefiting from it. Because like in the mindset of a lot of people, they believe that if you're considered to be an invader of your own land.
Which country are you from?
Somalia.
Oh no! What? I thought you're talking like you're from Algeria or something. If you were from Algeria or Morocco or something, I would be like, "Yep, you're right." But no, not Somalia.
No, that is true.
We get told
what you're talking about is more like Bantu supremacy. That's BS.
No.
But we get told that a lot on like, we get told like, I personally don't believe that they're real Pan-Africans, but there are some people who would host live saying that they're Pan-Africans, but then they allow for people to claim that Horner countries like Eritrea, Ethiopia, Somalia, and sometimes even parts of Sudan, that we are invaders and we're not actually indigenous to the land. I have heard that multiple times, unfortunately.
Some people are mistaken because
Me too.
I think they confuse. I think some people confuse the whole thing with North Africa with Somalians and Ethiopians and Eritreans. And I think that's more like it's based on featureism, right? Like they look at your face and they assume you must be related to those people, but they're mistaken, obviously.
True, because like a lot of people are not very educated in it. Yeah, Pen.
Are you making a decision based on what our leaders or the people leading our countries are deciding? Is that how you're factoring your decision, or are you factoring your decision based on the citizens of those countries?
Facts. No, based on like what's happening currently.
So the politicians.
Because Of course, yes. But like us as like the African people, right? We do want like the connection. We do want to like move forward and do better and all that, right? And build that relationship. But then the thing is, we cannot also blind ourselves because, like, for instance, our leaders are the leaders. We can't be like ignore the leaders because us as the citizens of the continent, we want unity because our leaders are the one who are in charge, not us as the citizens. We're not controlling anything. Right, we do have voices or in it, all of that, but we're not in charge.
Right. So you don't believe that an amplified voice of a unified people can make a difference?
It does. But like, tell me who wants it even? Like, nobody wants it. The only people that I've seen that only speaks about this whole pan is like this whole Pan-African movement is the Sahel, the three. You know, those are the only ones that I see about even speaking about unity. But again, if you kind of look at it, like what other people are being done to by their neighbors. Like, for instance, like I'm not even talking about only Ethiopia, right? For instance, we have like Kenyans, we have Ugandans, like Amazon, like those military groups that are in Somalia. Those are our neighbors. Those are our East African brothers. But then still, they are doing things to cause destructions for their own benefit. And this comes from the government.
So, and that's what I was going to get to earlier. Are you telling me that Elon Musk, I'm going to use him as an example, when his rockets fell so many times, that he should have quit trying to create a space program that is now successful? Or should he have given up at a few tries and it didn't work and then just let it go? Is that your point of view in life? Try a few times, doesn't work, move on, ditch it. You see a problem, you see a challenge, you don't keep tackling it until you solve it. Because Pan-Africanism only exists because there's a problem in our front that we haven't solved yet. And it's been destroyed every time that it's tried to do what it ought to become, what it's supposed to become. Outside forces, internal forces, those that don't want to see it happen, it's always been a struggle to make it work. So are you telling me that we shouldn't keep trying? We shouldn't keep trying to make it work?
No, that's not what I'm saying. But I'm saying they are beneficiaries. There are people who will benefit from, and there are people who will not benefit from. And for instance, I don't see us as these Somali people. I'm not even speaking for the Horn. I'm only speaking for my country, right? I don't see a whole Pan-African movement benefiting me in the long way because like majority always rules, right? The majority of the people of the continent of Africa, if you kind of see us, we are the minorities, right? The Bantus and the Sub-Saharans are always the majorities. And if they don't see you as you are part of them, it's not going to work. If they see you as an outsider, the whole people, you will come across people who are saying, oh, your flag, your country was part of this country, so now you are that, right? So when people see it that way, it just kind of makes it harder for you to like explain yourself. I'm like, we joined that group.
That's the opposite of Remy, you're gonna come after her. I'm just curious to hear her thought on this, and then you come in after her. She says what she gotta say. Can you define Pan-Africanism?
So like
can you define Pan-Africanism, Aliyah, please, for me?
It's like the whole unity of Black people, like whether they're like in the diaspora or the continent. So unity between the Black people, Black folks all over.
And okay. And then what do you have a problem? What issue do you have with that? You don't want to unite with certain people?
No. I'm not having issue with uniting anybody. Okay, I'm for unity. But what is that not everyone is for unity. And the majority are not for unity. Yeah, they are for unity. They want unity within their neighbors. Not somebody like, for instance, when we talk about the continent, North Africa is part of it as well, right? So if the Sub-Saharans don't want to unite with the whole North Africa, so what's the point of uniting with the continent of Africa, right? If there's always like a push, whether you want to push, and then you will come across people who are talking about you're not the original people of this land. Then who is the original people of this land?
You're going to hear people talk a lot of crap when it comes to this thing. Those people are not the police of the ideology. They didn't create it. It was created before they even existed. This has been going on for centuries now. This is not
But
something that
how
started
like
from them. They
Pen,
didn't invent it. They are adopting it, and they're trying to give it a spin. So them coming to you, telling you that you're not even indigenous to the continent, you don't listen to those people.
no, I get
You
what
don't
you're
even
saying,
listen to
Pen.
them. They don't know what
But
they're
you know,
talking
like
about.
how the whole FBA movement started. It started with two different, like just few people, right? So now it's like expanding. When you feel like a movement is starting small, it gets bigger and bigger. Now it creates a lot of noise where everybody else is also joining cahoots with it, right? So when a lot of people are joining, when you have your own panel, right now you have like 58 people. Now you give 58 people misinformation of what it is and the whole Pan-African and who it is for. Those 58 people would take it and spread it to other people. So it gets bigger and bigger. And I do notice that it is getting bigger where like they're pushing people out and they're inviting other people. And I'm happy, like the fact that the Bantus or the Sub-Saharians are like, they want unity. That is great. But like unity at the cost of who though?
Do you
If it
know
is
who's
at the
helping
cost of
XBA?
me,
Do you know who's helping FBA expand? Those ignorant Africans that go and debate with them every day. And then the ignorant diasporas that go ahead and then debating with them every day. And they go debate with them. And what they end up doing is that the people on the fence between FBA and African Americans see that. And they say, is this how I hear this all the time. Is this how Africans think about us? Is this the way they see us? And they're going to decide to take that side of the people that belong to them. They will convert them. We're helping them convert to become FBAs. So in the same manner, you're telling me that I shouldn't go out and do what the missionaries did to us in Africa, which means convert people to Christianity. I'm trying to convert people to see that all this fighting that we're doing doesn't benefit any of us. And from what I'm hearing from you is that leave the honors alone. We're going to live in our own little bubbles and we're going to do our own thing. I don't think we belong in this idea that we should be united. But all unity means is that we shouldn't lose our identity. We shouldn't lose who we are. It just means that we can coexist. That's all it means.
No, Pen, that's not what I meant by you making, voicing and like you having panel and speaking about that. I do support that. And I'm not against that kind of talking point, right?
I haven't gotten a lion from you, LA. I haven't gotten a lion from you.
It's coming. Obviously, it's coming. But like, I'm only against the separation. But I do support what you're doing because you are doing a great job and it's amazing. But what I'm saying is like, if it's because of me, I would not support it or stand behind it. The whole Pan-African movement, if it's like going to sacrifice the lamb, I don't want to be somebody's lamb and getting sacrificed on the way. And until we fix our own issues, I feel like this whole Pan-African movement could be pinpoint. I think a lot of African countries have their own issues within their own countries, with their neighbors.
I'll let Remy come in after this, but the way I see it, Aliyah, the way I see it is, I don't think it's beneficial for everyone, because I hear this from a lot of different people that are not Pan-Africans that say, I think we should solve our own problems first, and then we should think about Pan-Africanism second. The way I see it is within your country, within all those countries of people that say we should fix our issues first, they are people that already want to unite. I'm not asking for 100% participation. I'm just looking for the 1, 2, 3, 4 people that already want to start doing work in unity. And then we'll grow from there, just like you said, the FBA is growing. We'll grow from there as well. We'll keep growing until we can get everybody, or as many people as possible, to come rock with us. That's the way I see it. And then the plans that I have and other people have, there's a lot of people doing work. I just found a Pan-African yesterday that got locked up because he's doing work. The French wasn't happy with him, and he's doing major work. And the reason why I haven't found him before this is because he only speaks French and not English. But there are people doing work. There are people doing work that we don't even know about. There's another one in Mali from Cameroon that we found not too long ago that also speaks French. That we discovered, and that was transcribed to English. His work was transcribed to English, so we found him. So there's a lot of people doing work that we don't even know about. And I'm doing work, and I'm not even doing a lot, but a lot that I'm doing work, and a lot of people don't even know who I am. And I have bigger visions, big ambitions, and I truly believe my way of thinking about it, which means one person at a time. I'm not looking for country. I don't see the borders. So you're Somali. I get it. That's not what I'm looking at. I'm looking at you as a person of African descent, your race. That's what I'm looking at. So all those other labels, I don't look at them. I'm looking at you and your race. You're a person of African descent. Let's work. If you have the ideology and the mindset to work with me, I'm willing to work with you. That's the way I see it.
Thank you.
If you're not ready, then okay, I'm gonna let you do what you're doing until maybe you see the fruits of our labor, and maybe that will convince you. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, I wish all the Africans all the best and luck and everything, but I want to add that one of the person's comments, I think it was Sigmad, she said, like, who's getting sacrificed for Pan-African? Everybody's getting, listen, what I meant by getting sacrificed is, like, for instance, if, like, Ethiopia is doing things in my own country, and then, let's say, for Nigeria to go ahead and make, some sort of agreement with Ethiopia, instead of, like, telling them, hey, what you guys are doing to your neighbors is wrong, that is you sacrificing me. That is you saying what Ethiopia is doing is fine to me. That is you saying what Kenya is doing, it's fine. That is you saying what the neighbors of this person's country, what they're doing to the other people are fine. That is you agreeing with. So that is also
No. You
you
remember
getting sacrificed.
there's the politicians. There's the politicians, which for the most part in Africa, for the most part, like I know you probably don't agree with your president in your own country. I don't agree with my president in my
I
own
don't agree
country.
with it.
I don't agree. So I don't want us to. Dave, I can't speak much about. I have it.
I'm
that people that.
going back to work.
Okay.
I'm
Okay.
on
Go
myself.
ahead.
It is right because
I'm
oh,
not.
go ahead.
I'm just finished with this. I'm not relying on the African presidents to be the way of who are going to be the ones that will dictate the direction Africa goes. I think it's time that the people, the 1.5 billion people, be the deciding factor of which direction Africa goes. We shouldn't be waiting on them, because if we wait for them, they're gonna keep getting manipulated by the foreign interference and all the Western countries that interject and interrupt the things that we're doing. That's the way I see it. But go ahead, sis. And then Remy wanted to say something. Remy wanted to say something too.
Yeah. So that's all I've been saying, like the whole however many hours we've been speaking. Okay. And then at some point, because I gave an example of what I thought a leader might be thinking, people took that as a justification, or Pan-Africanism being represented by that. And I'm just like, these people may not be frequent listeners, and that's fine. So I'll just explain this briefly. There's this thing that I do where I try to figure out why leaders make the decisions that they make, so that I can then basically trace back their steps and see how to prevent those decisions from being made, like prevent the circumstances that arise that gave way to those being one of the choices to make. It's just a part of analyzing structures. So I often say, if I were diabolical as well, to try to understand why the Eagle Country and its allies do the things that they do. That's not me saying I agree with what they do. It's me trying to understand their moves so I know how to move next, or I can help other people know what we should be doing, or we can think about it together. With regards to Pan-Africanism, like I've said before as well, Pan-Africanism is an ideology. It has a long history. It has a lot of different components to it. But as I defined it earlier from Kwame Nkrumah, it is the total unification and liberation of African people and the African continent under scientific socialism. That is the definition I go by. There's another one that's just like it that includes, that one includes it. He puts it in an asterisk that includes Africa, includes all of her people, all of her children. But Sekou Touré, he makes it even more clear by saying, and her branches, meaning her external components in the islands and people who are African, who are in different places, right? So when I'm thinking about that, I'm not thinking about, I don't know, how this individual leader acts is a total representation of Pan-Africanism. It is an ideal. It is a great ideal. It's one that I believe can truly be achieved. But if we're being critical right now, the continent of Africa is not currently in a space where that ideal is achieved. Okay, it's going to take time, and so if leaders fall short, I would prefer, but you can do what you want. I would prefer if people don't use what we feel or see rightfully as their shortcomings or failures or missteps or whatever as a way to say, oh, Pan-Africanism is not for me and my group or things like that. That doesn't make sense, especially when I know that so many African people are religious, whether they follow Islam or they follow Christianity or whatever, and they frequently fall short, but they keep trying, right? Those books, those texts, these religions, they are models of behavior for us, for what we should aspire to do and who we should aspire to be. And when we make steps, when we commit, sin or shirk, that doesn't mean we just stop trying. So I think it's very interesting that we can throw away Pan-Africanism very quickly because certain leaders are not what we like them to be, or they make a mistake that we don't like, versus humans doing all types of things that violate our religious tenets and we still continue to be religious. I find that very interesting. So I would just like for us to please give unity, which is what Pan-Africanism is about. Please give unity more grace and more attempts than what we're doing when we're just saying, oh, okay, this isn't working. This group is not doing what I want them to do. This group hurt me. We throw away Pan-Africanism. Like I said earlier, and I even said it in the comments, the host and pretty much all of the mods, we belong to groups of people who have been harmed by other African people, and we still show up and we still promote and try to teach and organize around Pan-Africanism. That's all I'm asking other people to do. Thank you.
Go ahead, Remy. I have some things to say too, but you go first because you've been waiting.
Oh yeah, I'll make it short for you.
And Ali, I can still hear you, by the way.
So what I was gonna say is, I think that I'm realizing more and more that a lot of people actually don't really understand what Pan-Africanism is. Because even when we talk to FBA, sometimes they're like, "Oh, you guys are not united. How you gonna preach Pan-Africanism and you're not united?" So I'd like to explain to people what it's not. Pan-Africanism does not mean the non-existence of your identity, whether that be tribal, ethnicity, or nationality. Also, it does not mean that we all become one one thinking brain that just always is on the same page. It does promote the unity to advance people of African descent economically, politically. And that is why when I say North Africa, those people themselves do not recognize themselves as African descent. Now, I have many brothers and sisters who I've talked to who are Somalian, who are Ethiopian, Eritrean, and they identify as black. I also know about their history. I know they're very different from the other people I described.